Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Geeky Geezers. I'm your host, Aged Boomer. This is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli,
Hello,
a.k.a. Troy Pacelli. What you sipping on?
What I am sipping on is, and I don't think you know this soda, although I've mentioned it before. Diet Squirt. It's a grapefruit. It's like a carbonated grapefruit soda. But I was seriously thinking of releasing the Kraken and doing drunken news with Boomer.
I consider doing that too, but anyway.
Because I don't have to work tomorrow, and I got to be honest, I didn't even feel any alcohol buzz from the drink that Nanette made me on Friday. I think she pendulumed back the other way. I was so drunk the week before. She gave me almost nothing this time around. So
yeah, but that was fun. Anyway,
yeah. I mean, we were all over the place, but man, it was great hanging out with Matt from Bud Boy Productions, and that really was good stuff.
Yeah, and he gave us the lowdown on Shang-Chi a bit too, so that was neat.
Yeah.
Or Shang-Chi, or however they're pronouncing it.
However, and I don't know if Al, if his video went up today. I thought it was going to, but he's doing a video on it too.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So you can check him out to see his review as well, or like I said, Matt from Bud Boy Productions, he's got a review up too. You didn't ask me what I'm sipping on.
What are you slipping on?
I got a Snapple watermelon lemonade, the last one I own. That's in the glass bottle. It's a special occasion.
And after that, it's all plastic.
It's plastic crap, and they can kiss my ass because I ain't buying that stuff if I don't have to. Okay. Here's the last real fact I'm going to read. The brain operates on the same amount of power as a 10-watt light bulb. Oh, that's funny. Is that why the light bulb lights up in like cartoons when someone's thinking?
I never thought about that. Could be. That's also why the Matrix, spends, hundreds and hundreds of kilowatt hours keeping humans alive to get that little 10 volts out of their brains.
Oh, the world building in Matrix was fantastic.
It was fantastic, but some of the science breaks down. Although, my understanding is that the creators had actually thought through some of those things, and they were left by the wayside trying to whittle things down.
I see, because they.
So I'll give them a pass on some of that.
I loved how the machines acted in those movies because they had personalities. They weren't like the typical like Skynet type robots. They actually had. I think over time they had developed their own thoughts. In fact, if you watch the Animatrix, you get to find the whole origin of them. It's fascinating. Let me say hi to the chat, though. Horizon Talker, I believe you were first, though I could be wrong. Hello, the chat. Hello back to you. Well, I'm not the chat, but I'm the host, but hello back to you. Big Al Presents. Have a great show, guys. Thank you, Big Al. Matthew Flynn. Hello.
Yep.
Joshua V. And that's it for now, but hey, that's more than I thought we were going to get.
And Big Al said later tonight, I think he's referring to his video going up.
No one see Shang-Chi. I'm calling it Shang-Chi until I get corrected and called it.
That's how it's spelled. If you don't like how we pronounce it, then spell it differently. You tell me SADE is pronounced Sade. I'll say it, but until I'm told otherwise, it's Sade.
Oh, pronounce it like Clownfish does. Shang-Chi. Okay, Shang-Chi. Okay, there we go. That feels wonderful.
That's going to go out of my head, and I'm going to forget it.
I have to tell you, all the hype surrounding this movie, and I'm looking at it. Is this essentially just an English version of a Wuxia movie that we used to get tons of back in the day from Hong Kong, back before the CCP took over?
I gotta say, I think that a lot of it is culled from Marvel lore, but it's all characters that I never followed and never really cared about. Most fans will tell you that. And I think a lot of it is an amalgamation of the actual Shang-Chi from the comics and Iron Fist, that aborted thing that Netflix kind of effed up for us. So all of that lore is being kind of rehashed, and that kind of leads to the renaming of some of their characters, not just the SJW reasons.
Hey, and I've said it before, though, those Netflix series are going to look like Shakespeare compared to what we're going to get from Disney on Disney Plus, as far as Marvel series go. I mean, Iron Fist was flawed, but at least the villain was interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
Well, their marketing didn't do them any favors. I mean,
No.
between the lead actor and Aquafina shooting off their mouth on social media, I mean, it was to me about as bad as Captain Manhater saying, I don't need to know what a 40-year-old white man thinks about whatever. It's not made for you. Okay, well, fine. You know what? You can subsist on whatever Asian Americans might want to see your movie, and I'm out. Because China is.
Aquafina?
Yeah. Yeah, she said that she didn't want to play a certain style of role because she didn't want to be accused of, or she didn't want to contribute to yellowface. Or, acting. She wouldn't put on an Asian, that's what it was. She wouldn't put on an Asian accent because that's not her accent and it's racist. And everyone comes back, oh, but you have no problem doing, verbal blackface and mimicking black people in your routines. And, start posting all this. And she took a lot of flack from the black community about that. And I'm like, you people, you SJWs need to figure your shit out. And start thinking through the consequences of the bullshit you say. They say people who live in glass houses shouldn't cast stones. Well, everybody in Hollywood lives in a glass house, and they're just chucking stones everywhere.
Remember movies used to be fun?
Well, you remember when you used to have a publicist that would tell you to shut your mouth, downplay any scandals, act a certain way. Oh, no, that's not how it works.
Yes, speaking of which, we'll be getting to that with Cowboy Bebop again this week, which I swear I'm not intending to keep talking about this.
We got a lot on that one this week.
Oh, here we go. Using my authority as an official representative of the Asian community, I want to renew my demand that we stop trying to make Aquafina a thing. She does not represent us. Okay, I'll take your word for it. And, oh, wait.
Yeah, amen, Horizon Talker. I mean, and that's the same kind of thing that, the whole black community has been saying throughout the past 2 years. These people claiming to speak for black people, don't speak for them. Look at Paulie over on Latino Slant, Midnight's Edge Espanol. He's always doing videos every time the whole Latinx shows up. 90% of the Latin community is like, don't go trying to culturally appropriate my language and tell me how to speak. I am Latino. My girlfriend is Latina. That's how our language works. You don't like it, you can F the F off.
Hello, Melissa Harris. Good to see you. Okay. So, anyway, let's talk about something a little more pleasant, maybe, huh? What do you think, huh?
I think so. Tell me about the good old days.
Tonight's good old days subject is the Planet of the Apes.
Those damn dirty apes.
Okay. Oh no! Now whenever I think of that, I think of how the line got reversed in the Tim Burton movie, where it's like you damn dirty humans.
That actually was kind of clever, in my opinion. I thought that, especially since wasn't it Charlton Heston playing the ape that said that?
It might have been. I don't remember. I only saw it once in the theater, and that was enough, and that was back in the day. Let's talk about the original Charlton Heston movie. Now, I have a question. You were more of a 70s child, right?
Yes.
Planet of the Apes fever was probably big in the country back then,
right? It kind of was, yeah. I obviously didn't go see those movies in the theater. I was kind of young. But as they got played on TV, back then, you didn't have cable, you didn't have home video or anything like that. But it worked very similarly. It would be released in the theaters, it would leave the theaters, and then a few months later, I mean, it seemed like years to a kid, but it really was just a few months later, 6 months maybe, it would show up in edited form on network television.
Oh, okay.
Especially on Sundays, the big Sunday night movie, and
they used to do that back in the day. They would even shoot scenes for the television version to be shown. They did that with Halloween. Right. They did that with Superman. They did that with a few movies. Yeah,
they did that. Well, actually, they never actually stopped doing that because they still make. If they make an R-rated film, for example, they will do scenes that can be edited in to make it PG-13 or whatever for the airline industry, so that they can play movies on flights. In fact, I was talking about this when we did the rewatch of About Last Night. There's this scene where Demi Moore and Rob Lowe, after this long, romantic, very romantic sex scene, very explicit. Right. They take out all the nudity. They speed up the song. They put in a bunch of, there were a bunch of other scenes because it's a collage of their time together. They speed it up a little bit. And then the next scene is they come downstairs to raid the refrigerator and they're naked. And I was shocked when I saw it on television. I saw what they were doing. I'm like, oh, they sped it up. That's pretty cool. Next scene, they're coming down and Demi Moore is wearing his shirt, and it's covering her, and he's wearing tighty whities. And I'm like, and this was long before there was CG or anything. I'm like, they refilmed this scene specifically for television. It's the first time I noticed it. Someone else in the industry told me, no, that's they do that for airline flights. And yes, if they do show it on television, they use that version. Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't think about that. Yeah, because I guess you're sitting in your chair and might be kind of uncomfortable.
But I'm sorry, I totally got us off on track here. So I saw Planet of the Apes on, like the Sunday night movie, probably CBS, something like that. So that was the first time I saw it. But because you're right, it was so popular. There were several of these movies out there. There was a television series and a cartoon series, and I saw both of those.
I saw the pilot for the television series, which struck me as a little silly because in the television version, didn't the humans speak in the future, whereas they were mute in the movie versions, right? But was it a similar thing where more astronauts fell to Earth?
Every iteration had a new set of astronauts coming through. And
did they know about Taylor or something? Was he mentioned?
Some of them were, at least one of them was, they were on a mission looking for Taylor and his crew. I actually don't remember. These are fuzzy memories for me. We're going back to the 70s.
Yeah, no, I know.
But I also had, I did have some of the merch. Mego put out the action figures for Planet of the Apes, and they put out, I had the Gorilla General. I forget his name. Was it Urso or something like that? Ursus. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I may have had Cornelius, I think. What I found very interesting was the uniform tunic for the gorilla was the same uniform top that Mego used for the Klingon action figure. It wasn't very accurate, but it served its purpose. So now Mego got the license back for Planet of the Apes, and they're starting to put out all those Planet of the Apes figures again. If you're interested.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, that might be kind of cool. Do they have a Nova action figure?
You got me. I'm not sure. Easy custom to make though, because they have generic female bodies.
Right.
You can get a repro head of. She was the blonde, right? Or was she brunette?
Brunette, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's several female characters.
She actually, the Nova character in the more recent one, she was blonde, but
no, I'm talking originally.
Yeah, the original. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's all different color hair for repro Migos, and you could pick up the little fur bikini from the Tarzan and Jane set that Mego did back in the 70s. Yep.
Yeah, but so you saw the original on TV. Were you warned about the? Did you know about the surprise ending?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't spoiled for me, if that's what you mean. No,
because I imagine that would have had a big impact when you're watching it and you realize, oh, he's been on Earth all along. It's.
I was. Gosh, I was pretty young, but I think I was old enough to go, oh, that's a cool twist, kind of a thing, like, yep. Oh, I get it. But I'll tell you, one thing that I thought was very effective, they did this in the 70s. I haven't seen it much since. And it's too bad because it is very effective. It closes very silently. After he does his cursing and whatnot, you don't go like to, music and whatnot. It's a silent close. And it's like, kind of spooky. I'm like, that's genius. It doesn't cost nothing, and it has a huge impact.
Creepy.
Yeah.
And it's, you're realizing this is our future if we keep messing around like we are now. And then we, of course, get Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which was the follow-up.
I was a little older.
Yeah.
And I caught that one on a Saturday afternoon.
Right.
And that was, again, regular television. And I remember the ending on that, thinking it felt to me like the horror films of those days, almost like a Hammer horror type of film.
Yeah, well, it had that very feel. I mean, think about Charlton Heston was even in that Omega Man movie, remember? And yeah, but it did have that horror feel to it, and that was creepier because you had the mutated humans worshiping the atom bomb, and I guess they had telekinetic abilities, and so it was weird that they introduced a third group. It was weird though because they said Heston would only come back to be in a sequel if they blew the whole planet up. That's what he said or something. So
and they probably were like, oh well, we're not going to do that. And then they thought about it and they were like, hey, wait a minute, that's not such a bad idea.
Well, they shoot. They shoot. No, well, we're spoiling this movie for those of you who haven't. But basically, the apes attack the mutated humans, and then they shoot Nova. And Taylor says, "Bloody bastard!" And he presses the button, and the bomb goes off and destroys the planet Earth. Apes and humans with it. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about Beneath. Like I don't know. That one, some of the stuff is a little on the nose, especially with the war protesting.
Yeah,
stop the war.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't feel it's quite as smart as the first movie.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It's not. But two little defenses I will make. One, it makes perfect sense in the context, right? When you have seen the big twist ending at the end of the first movie, and of course you ultimately end up going back and watching it all the way through, knowing how it's going to end, you're like, okay, I kind of can imagine how this came about. Because he even says something like, damn it, you did it, you blew it all up, and we all just assumed, okay, nuclear war, especially since there was the Forbidden Zone. That immediately brings up the idea of maybe radiation and stuff like that, or at least in a culture that far down the line, maybe, it was taboo for the longest time to go to this place because everyone would get sick when they went there. So we still don't go there and, stuff like that. So when you then get to Beneath the Planet of the Apes, the idea of a civilization of humans surviving this long seems incredibly unlikely.
Yeah.
But
underground.
The idea of it's not plausible, but possible maybe. I guess if I can suspend my disbelief and imagine a world of, anthropomorphic talking apes, I should be able to imagine, Morlocks under the ground, surviving that long. So.
Oh, that's probably where they got that from. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah. So anyway, so then we get Escape from the Planet of the Apes, which was Cornelius and Zira coming back to modern 1970s.
Which, in my personal opinion, is an example of them putting a big twist at the beginning of the movie.
Yep.
Because you're going into this, having seen the last one, going, how the heck are they going to do this? They blew up the world. Well, the way that, the spaceship came into the future, they can go back into the past. So you got Cornelius and... what was her name again? Mara?
Zira.
Right. Mm-hmm. Going back in time. Oh, and one other ape that ends up being the red shirt of the group.
Yeah, that's right. He gets shot. Oh man.
Well, they all end up getting dead. Spoiler, we're spoiling these, 40, 50-year-old movies. So
it's rather disturbing because it almost starts out like they're kind of celebrities and all the humans are accepting, and then people start thinking, what future did they come from? And are there humans in that future? And what's going on with the human race in the future? Then she confesses, oh, I dissected a bunch. And, then they're starting to realize, wait a minute, something's gone wrong in the future. Then people start fearing them, right? And then it turns into a big old tragedy.
Well, it turns into a big, not self-fulfilling prophecy, but an ontological paradox, right? Because literally they come back in time and cause the future that they came from. And trying to stop them, trying to kill them, trying to prevent that future literally leads to that future.
To that very future, yeah. And they do have a child, and the child gets switched out by a man that was trying to help them, who was a circus owner, played by Ricardo Montalban. Remember?
Yes, it was.
And he switches up babies.
Son played by Roddy McDowall, who had played the father character Cornelius.
And then we get Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, which might be one of my favorites of that original series. Have you seen that one?
Yes, I absolutely have. Caesar, I believe is his name. Caesar grows up.
They say pick a name. And all apes have to have names, and they pick a name for this book, and he finds it on Caesar. Oh, okay, Caesar. He does because he's smart. He can speak, not when no one else is around, right? Yeah, because he's been raised, and he's an intelligent ape from the future. Yeah.
So Caesar basically sees his I want to say countrymen, but they're not
brethren. Well,
brethren. Yeah, the others of his species being treated like cattle, like pets, like slaves. It's literally a slave uprising. And I mean, we start getting into the stories of the remake films that we have. Yeah.
They're kind of a loose remake of what we got in the 70s, but Conquest, there's actually a much darker edit of that movie if you have the Blu-ray of it. It gives you both edits, the original theatrical edit where Caesar says, like the one guy argues, I'm a descendant of slaves. I'm asking you to show some humanity. And then he goes, but I'm not human. You know, and there's the scene where he's going to take the leader and the human leader, and basically he's going to have the apes pummel him to death or not. In the theatrical version, he has the apes stay, don't kill them. But in the original cut, no, they murder the guy. Okay?
I'll tell you that film would be a good one for people to rewatch again right now, because that whole line about being descended from slaves, it's like, I'm sorry, that doesn't buy you any virtue points here, because you should know better because you were descended from slaves, but you don't. You are human, and you're behaving like a human, and you deserve what you get. And this is what we're seeing in the world around us. It's like, if you don't learn from history, you're going to repeat it. And just swapping out type of human for apes or something else, slavery is slavery, and humanity is humanity. And when you start sectioning people off, well, what's that the old one?
They came for
the whoever, and they came for the, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't that, and I wasn't that. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Well, it's happening again. And, Gina Carano's tweet that everyone got so bent out of shape about, it's like, well, here we are. She was 100% right, and it's being proven more and more each day. No, it's not about being Jewish. That's not what you need to learn. It wasn't the bad guys exterminating Jews. It's whenever you dehumanize any group of people for any reason of your choosing, and make them second-class citizens, dehumanize them, take away their rights, eventually it leads to things like extermination.
Yeah, well, if you watch too, you make it a point how Conquest is worth watching. It takes place. It was filmed in modern day Los Angeles, but recent, and basically they were portraying the future Los Angeles as a police state. Okay, so in
other words, like right now.
I know, no, seriously, you have the government anybody's business. You have stratification because the regular people can't get jobs anymore because the apes took the jobs, but now they're slave labor. And there's all this stratification in society, and the elites are, and the elites are terrible in this, except for like the one guy who I think was trying to ease them, the one who was
and now it's no different, because it's either illegal immigrants or it's the unvaccinated. We are establishing this tier system so that we can dehumanize them, pay them less, Basically use them as slave labor. And this is what I've been trying to get across to people for so long. Don't ever tell me that slavery is wrong and you don't agree with slavery, but you have no problem paying a non-citizen under the table less than minimum wage. That's slavery, my friend.
It is. It is. We don't like to call it that because we act like we're so civilized. But, well, to be fair, you and I aren't doing this. But the point is, well, I don't know. Are we culpable? I don't know. That's the whole thing. What were you talking about?
I don't know. I mean, I was going to say it's not. I do what I can against it. I
mean, so do I. Yeah, but you know,
it's not like I ignore it. I'm doing what I can. I'm talking about it. At least getting that message out.
We have laws on the books that aren't being enforced. That's part of the reason why we're in this mess.
Right.
But what did I want to say? We also have Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Did you watch that one?
I'm sure I did, but I might need a refresh.
I've been afraid to watch that one because, for starters, it starts out a story being told by either the lawgiver or somebody else. I thought,
the lawgiver,
John Huston plays them, and then it goes into the aftermath of Conquest, where it's like humans and apes that survived. I guess the downfall of human civilization trying to survive together, and then there's like a bad ape. I guess they kind of went on this storyline in the remakes as well. But I'm just trying to think, what was it though? Paul Williams plays an orangutan.
Yes, he does, and he did it very well too.
This is what I've never seen all the way through because one of the issues with those old Planet of the Apes movies, and I'm going to say this is back in the old days Hollywood, where they would make a sequel, they would spend half the money on it.
Yeah.
And then when they would make a sequel to that movie, they would spend half the money on that sequel.
Yeah.
And the budgets would keep going down with each subsequent sequel. And until what do you have left by the time you get to movie number 5? Now, I'll admit with Conquest, it was more interesting because at least I almost think the limited budget helped that movie, but it's because it's grittier.
Yeah.
Like it's a Apes movie, but I don't know. But
this is the kind of thing that I saw when bigger special effects heavy TV shows started to become more popular, like in the 80s, Star Trek The Next Generation, so forth. Mm-hmm. And this grew out of like Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica and stuff like that. This whole idea of reusing props, reusing costumes,
right.
If you had molds for makeups, reusing them as much as possible and so forth, to cut costs as much as possible, you could end up having something that looks incredibly expensive and it doesn't cost near as much as you thought. So if you're doing like Planet of the Apes, you could do a lot of stock appliances for there was only 3 different races of apes. There was the gorillas, the chimps, and the orangutans.
Yes.
So you could do like stock makeup for them. The costumes, you could just punch them out. They all had the basic same looks.
Yep.
And just
masks for background characters.
And I know that when they got around to doing the TV shows, that's exactly what they did. They used everything they could from the movies.
And how was the cartoon? This I'm unfamiliar with.
I got to be honest with you, I don't recall it that well.
Okay.
I did watch it. It's very hard to get a hold of today. I have been working on it.
Okay.
And I remember it being a very gritty style of art, kind of that... kind of like the stuff that was coming over from Japan back then, the like Speed Racer.
It could have been animated over there for all we know.
Very, very possibly. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so not much known on the Planet of the Apes cartoon.
But if you think about the opening for what's that show, Archer? You've seen Archer, right?
Yeah.
The opening, the original opening for Archer, that art style. The opening for Planet of the Apes was very similar in that kind of feel. Except, instead of this jazzy jazz, it was more, like you'd expect primitive Planet of the Apes type music.
Okay, well, cool. I don't know. Maybe I'll hunt for it.
Yeah. It's probably worth it. I'm trying to get a hold of it myself. If you find one of your, Blu-ray,
I'll let you know.
You let me know. I'll definitely get in on that.
Actually, I have attacked Paramount over the years for obvious reasons. But one thing they did right is that They were going to re-release the original Star Treks. They were going to do that, made that Star Trek Blu-ray set that had all the movies, the TV show, and the animated series. And a lot of people that had already bought that stuff on Blu-ray were angry because they wanted the animated series on Blu-ray. But then Paramount released the animated series and gave it its own Blu-ray separate release, so that people didn't have to go out and buy this set again. And apparently it's a nice set. It even comes with these little cards that aren't included, I think, in the big set. So that's kind of neat.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. Maybe I should pick up that Star Trek animated set. We'll see.
Tell you that the animated series was really good. It was written by some of the best sci-fi writers
when I was a kid. Yeah, and it reminded me of the live action series. It was in the same spirit of it.
And they did a lot of stuff in that cartoon that they just couldn't do in live action. Bigger aliens, less humanoid-ish type aliens. You know, you end up with a helm officer who's got 3 arms and 3 legs. You know, and the legs are digigrade legs.
I made a joke because I think they won't. Well, they couldn't have Chekhov in the Abrams movies. If they were to have done a 4th one of those, they could have just put that guy at the helm, right, in the Chekhov place, because that would not have been the worst thing they could do. I mean, those films really drove so many fans away. That at least would be a little nod that fans would actually enjoy. I keep to be fair, I'll argue I didn't hate the first one. I mean, there were problems, but I didn't hate it. But then we got into darkness and it was downhill from there. But anyway, though, Matthew Flynn commented, anything else to say about the Apes movies?
No, we can go on.
I like them, and they're still classics, and I don't care what Disney's planning. We'll get to that later. You can't touch the originals. They're still out there. Very nice Blu-ray set from Fox back in the day, too, which had, like I said, you could watch the unrated version of Conquest, much darker ending. It's more violent scenes in it that they had to censor from a PG.
Was that the Blu-ray, or was that
Blu-ray?
DVD?
I don't know if it was included with the regular DVD. I think
the DVD collection, the box art kind of bothered me because the original
DVD collection?
Yeah. No. Right up front spoiled. I mean, let's face it, just about everyone who was buying it never even thought twice about it.
That's annoying, especially if you're going to show, hey, son, you want to watch Planet of the Apes? Why is he sitting in front of? Why is the Statue of Liberty on? Okay.
Oops. Yeah.
It's so weird. Those movies were considered family features back in the day, though, isn't it? Considering.
Well, if you think about it, there's very little language.
Yeah.
The violence is pretty subdued. Definitely no nudity.
But they make you think a little bit, especially that first movie.
Yeah.
And, of course,
and those are the kinds of things that I think back then we used to think, if the kids don't enjoy it, they won't watch it. But if they do watch it, good for them. They'll think a little bit.
Well, good thing I have all the original Planet Apes movies on Blu-ray. Yes, I agree. And I'll say this, when they released it on Blu-ray, they got rid of the stupid spoiler. Okay, I think they used more of the artwork from the poster or something like that. Yeah. But anyway, Matthew Flynn brought this up. I didn't bring. This is a big news article in the world of gaming. Yeah, you mentioned that Saints Row has become very SJWized. Yes, it has.
Honestly, I kept hearing about this Saints Row. I thought it was a movie or a streaming show or something.
You're probably thinking of the Boondock Saints, but
could be.
But no, Saints Row was a kind of a Grand Theft Auto game, except it was zanier than Grand Theft Auto and just anything under the sun. But it was not very PC, obviously, because of all this stuff. But then, and I thought THQ Norse developer, they're not going to be up on all this stuff, but now looks like they're going the route. We can cover it sometime if you'd like. We're not going to do it tonight, obviously, but yeah, it's just, you've just shot yourselves in the foot. If people buy this game, I'll be surprised. Of course, who knows? Maybe they will. I don't know.
We started saying it a long time ago. I don't just mean you and I. Yeah. I mean everyone in all of our fandoms has been saying this for a long time. Get woke, go broke. And it is an axiom for a reason. It is a truism. We keep seeing it playing out over and over and over again. And, I don't understand how some companies haven't already gone broke, although Andre from Midnight's Edge has his theory about it. But
we won't mention that here.
Well, no names. We won't mention any names.
Maybe outside money coming in to save things.
Yeah. There's wealthy individuals that are propping up companies because they're trying to get a certain amount of propaganda out there. But be that as it may, everybody, the richest man, only has limited resources. I mean, Governments, people, everybody has limited resources. You can only keep, you can only bail the Titanic so fast.
All right. So this brings us to our first story of the night.
Netflix, and it's really one that we touched on big time last week, but there's been a lot more news.
Tune into my thing last week, or tune into about 100 other YouTube videos out there.
Yeah,
the story.
That's for darn sure.
It's basically the actress attacked the costume that the old Faye Valentine and the Cowboy Bebop show wore, and
she did more than just attack. She did more than just attack the outfit and the look of the character and unrealistic and body shaming and all that kind of stuff. She attacked the fans. Let's just be straightforward about it.
In a very obnoxious way. Mm-hmm. This is not how you win people over, especially when, quite frankly, you're not even an established actress. You've had smaller parts in movies.
Yeah.
You are not a big star. Okay. This is another thing we have to. A lot of these people, they keep pretending are stars, aren't stars.
Yeah.
They're not. I'm sorry. I'm not saying they're even bad actors, but they're.
Well, and slight side note here.
You have a bit part in one of the Jurassic World movies, good, but you're not the star of those. Okay, you have a couple speaking.
We're seeing a lot of these actors that, and not just actors, directors and producers and showrunners and studio executives shooting off their mouth, pissing off fans, and then suddenly finding that. They can't go anywhere because no one wants to hire them anymore. No one wants to enter into agreements with them, and nobody wants to contract with them. You know, so there used to be this saying, be careful who you step on the way up, because those are the people that you'll have to deal with on the way back down. And that's very much what I'm seeing with a lot of these people. They're pissing off everybody, and people are going, these people are kryptonite. I can't do business with them. So I'm glad you enjoyed your 15 minutes of fame and your $1 million contract. That's all the money you're getting.
This is what I don't understand. You were mentioning publicists, right? Where are the publicists? Unless the publicists are behind this, I don't know.
The publicists are learning the same lesson. They really are. But at least they have the ability to insulate themselves. So this was a theory that was put out by Script Doctor talking on Midnight's Edge. He was pointing out that obviously when you bring a lawsuit against your employer, it's your agent doing that. So Scarlett Johansson's agent, for example, and that publication or publicist company, is bringing that suit. And although this is not from anything in the news, we haven't heard this. He said, my prediction is what's going to happen is Disney is going to say to them, okay, so you decided to sue us. That's great. Well, we'll never work with Scarlett Johansson again, and we're never going to work with your firm ever again. So none of your actors will ever work for us again. Now, your first instinct, of course, is, well, wait a minute, that's kind of unfair to all the people that work for them. No, they'll just frickin' leave and get new representation so they can continue working for Disney.
Yeah.
That's how you put a company out of business. So that's what they're going to say. What's actually going to happen is they're going to go, we're so sorry, Mr. Mouse. We will drop her, we will drop the suit, and we will back away from this. Okay, we thought so. And she'll be left dangling basically the same way Gina Carano did.
Yeah. So, and
honestly, I think that these people are going to learn this same lesson. No one is going to want to. Well, the only ones that are going to want to work with this, whatever her name is, this faux Valentine, is people that like her SJW crusading, and those are companies that are not going to be lasting very long and are going to be losing money and realizing that's not a good investment.
Yeah, so here's the latest bit, okay? Netflix recently responded to the backlash against Cowboy Bebop and actress Daniela Pineda, who plays Faye Valentine in the upcoming live-action series, by sharing 2 photos of Pineda. Yeah, these photos have her wearing Faye Valentine T-shirts, including one with Faye Valentine in her iconic costume. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, the backlash against Netflix's live-action Cowboy Bebop series began when Netflix released a first look at the series, and critics decried the series' muted color palette, the inaccurate Faye Valentine costume, and the race swap jet black. Okay.
Yeah.
Netflix recently responded to the backlash against Cowboy Bebop and actress Danielle Pineda, who plays the upcoming live action series, by sharing 2 photos of Pineda. These are the aforementioned photos.
Before you get too far, I wanted to comment on something you just said there.
Yeah.
So these were the complaints that people made, right? Muted color palette, race swap, and the style of her costume. She focused in on the style of the costume and said, oh, I'm sorry, my body shape doesn't fit, this. And then she describes,
Faye Valentine as being 6 foot double D,
which is absolutely not what the character is.
To what the character is. Yeah.
And you're right. You couldn't find what you just described, but that's not Faye Valentine either. The person that Faye Valentine is can be found all over, and I could show you a whole scroll on Google of cosplayers that have done it just fine. Yeah. And you don't think you could do stunts and appear in a show in a costume like that? Well, someone's already put up images of her from another show that she did wearing less than that character. So you're totally capable, and you've done it. And you're also not referencing the race swap because, I'm not entirely certain that she's necessarily the right ethnic background to play this character. And that ethnicity does exist. And if you're going to race swap in a black character, whatever race that character was, those people do exist, and you pass them up.
Yeah,
for racist reasons.
Here's the thing. What my beef is about the whole race swapping thing is that when Scarlett Johansson was race swapped as the Major, people scream bloody murder, and all the has to do is gotten firearms, but they're not getting up in firearms now. I personally, it's anime. Sometimes even the race can be hard to distinguish. Sometimes, just as long as the actor's good,
right?
I don't even know that I even care.
Keep in mind, these are not issues that. Well, I'm not probably the demographic for this anyway, right. But I don't think a lot of fans are going to be bothered if you are, close but different ethnicity, and you're otherwise spot on, Yeah. I mean, like I've said so many times, it's never bothered me that a Jewish person was playing an Italian guy in a movie,
right, exactly.
Or what's his name from Godfather 3?
Andy Garcia.
Oh God, I loved him. He's not Italian.
Yeah, and Steve Buscemi played Nucky Thompson on Boardwalk Empire, an Irish.
Oh, he was good too. He was good too.
So it's.
Did I ever tell you I know Buscemi's cousin?
No way.
Like first cousin. Yeah. Oh, I won't say his first name because I don't want to.
Yeah, don't anybody. Anyone, but no,
I used to go to church with him, and he's like, yeah, and then when he tells you that, you look at him, you go, holy crap, I see the resemblance.
He's a big favorite actor of mine. I loved Trees Lounge. He was on The Sopranos for a season too. He played Tony's cousin. Remember Tony Blundetto?
Yeah.
I remember that. The other Tony on the show, which was
and this is the other thing too, and this gets into the Awkwafina thing I was saying earlier. This whole idea that if you're playing a role, you put on an accent. That's just what you do. If you're British and you're playing an American, you put on an American accent. If you're American and you're playing British, you put on a British accent. Like hopefully you're trained well enough to do it well, and if you are a Jewish person playing an Italian, you're not going to be saying oy vey. You're going to say Madonna mia,
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, though, so we already talked about the Pineda video. It says there would lead a backshot against the actress and the uncovering of Pineda wearing a very skimpy outfit from her time on The Detour, where she played Vanessa.
That's what it was. Thank you.
Yeah, YouTuber Vera Dark notes she is wearing this two-piece, very revealing outfit. It is actually more revealing than Faye's outfit would be. Because, of course, Faye Valentine is wearing
I'm sorry, Matthew Flynn just pointed out Mel Gibson isn't Scottish. Oh, gosh.
Oh, boy. Okay.
And maybe we don't want to go there, but Kevin Costner isn't British either, so he couldn't even come close to a British accent.
I'll I'll make an argument about that some other time. I think he gets flack for the fact that he didn't have an accent.
I also think he was a little too old for the role, too.
He probably was, yeah. But my argument is, I listen to a lot of old radio dramas, and sometimes when they would have British characters in the old radio dramas, they wouldn't have the accents, even though they were supposed to be British characters. And I argue, maybe if the person can't do the accent, don't have them do the accent, because that'd be worse.
But stop and think for a second. Back then, on the radio dramas, they usually were doing it in a transatlantic accent, which is that kind of blending between British and American English.
Oh, that's a weird accent. Yeah, if you watch the movie Spinal Tap, the characters in there are supposed to have these transatlantic accents. Yeah.
Yep.
But okay. Anyway, so Vera Dark knows she's wearing the two-piece. I'm butchering this. Okay, so technically Faye Valentine's outfit would be less revealed in this one. Response to this backlash, Netflix tweeted 2 photos of Danielle Pineda wearing Cowboy Bebop t-shirts. The first one showing Faye Valentine in her iconic outfit from the anime. And they wrote, just some Danielle Pineda to bless your timeline. In a subsequent, they added, Danielle Pineda is Faye Valentine. This reminds me of the quote from Game of Thrones when young Joffrey says, "I am the king."
Right.
And the guys, anyone that has to say he's the king is not the king.
Right.
Okay. Which anyone has to say they're Faye Valentine is not Faye Valentine.
Actually, the way you
screwed up with this entire thing, and you keep doubling down on your stupidity.
I honestly thought that, and this definitely applies. You say that after you've already established yourself. If you send someone to the gallows or whatever, you go, because I'm king, as they're being escorted out or whatever, and it's like, yep, he sure is, same thing. If she had done this movie already and it was well received and people were like, wow, she just defined this character, then she could say that.
These live action remakes make me really appreciate the originals a lot more. Yes, Matthew Flynn. I
agree.
There's a wonderful scene when the first time on the original anime series I was watching recently where Spike encounters Vicious again, like his arch enemy, and like Vicious says, "We used to be wolves," or something like that. He says, "I gave that up," Spike says, because Spike used to be basically organized crime and he gave that up to become a bounty hunter. And Vicious says, "Why are you still alive?" And he throws Spike outside of this church window high up in the cathedral. And then right as he's falling, Spike looks like he's about to fall to his death. Spike flings a grenade at Vicious, and then Vicious looks in the corner of his eye, and he's a scary character, but even he looks spooked by the grenade. Okay, yeah. And it's like, it's those little details that I loved. Anyway, I don't want to fanboy out on Cowboy.
No. You see, this kind of demonstrates these, and this goes directly to what I've been seeing. There's people coming out saying, "Well, you know what? Now that we're making this live action thing, we're rewriting canon, so you got to deal with it." And it's like, you don't understand how canon works.
No.
Okay, because if you get no fans, that canon is empty.
Now, this leads us to our next article. John Cho addresses Cowboy Bebop fans who think he's too old. Age was my biggest fear. Now, I want to point out, when I am looking at these articles, the huge contrast between this actor and Daniela Pineda in how they handle this.
Yeah.
This right here is normal. I am not going to say that any of this makes me feel that the show is going to be any good, okay? Yeah. But I am saying he is at least trying. I think he, from the sound of it, is actually taking his role seriously on the show.
So if we were to project that sort of an attitude back on Faux Valentine here, she would say, "Look, I hope this comes out as good as you're hoping. I don't think I have as big a bust or I'm as fit or whatever. And, I've heard your complaints about the outfit. Gosh, I really just hope you like it."
There's actually, physically speaking, I don't have any problem with her looks.
No,
her being
I don't think anyone did. She did this preemptively.
I'll be blunt. I don't know if I even have a problem with any of these characters. I mean, I know there have been complaints, but I don't. I do have issues with the director. This all started with the director saying we're going to put her in an outfit that a human being would wear, and I'm like, please knock it off, because that outfit's iconic. You want to change it,
and that's when all the Twitterazzi started posting all the pictures of all the people that have been cosplaying it. Well, here's a bunch of real people.
It's ridiculous.
Dressed like that, dumbass.
They don't know how to market this thing. Okay, Netflix's, let me read the article. Netflix's live-action adaptation of the iconic anime Cowboy Bebop arrives this November with John Cho in the lead role of Spike Spiegel, and the actor knew from the start his casting would be somewhat controversial. Spike is 27-year-old bounty hunter in the Cowboy Bebop anime. Cho turned 49 years old this summer. The actor was asked by Vulture about the Cowboy Bebop fans upset that the series did not cast a younger actor in the role, to which Cho admitted, "The biggest fear that I had was that I was too old. I knew people were going to have issues with my age, and I had to get over it." Okay, I'm not a person who says age is just a number or whatever. It was going to be harder physically, and I was going to look different than a 25-year-old guy. I believe Spiegel is 27 on the anime. Okay, Cho continued, "At some point, the opportunity is yes or no. Do you want to do it?" And I did want to do it, so I wasn't going to stop myself from doing it. For anyone who believes Cho is too old to lead Cowboy Bebop, the actor maintained the series benefits from him being an older actor. First of all, I couldn't have done it when I was 27, Cho said. I mean, maybe I would have been better suited athletically, but in terms of my discipline, I'm strangely better suited at this age. I don't think I would have done justice to the emotional depth we tried to give Spike. There's always a trade-off. What young men are typically best at as actors is rage, and that might have been more pronounced element in the character. What I'm better at being older is showing weakness and vulnerability and love. Those things are more accessible to me personally. I prefer the version I'm able to do now. That's my taste. Now, I'm going to say this. At least he's trying to sell me on the fact that he is being this character, explaining why, and I also understand your concerns. He's at least addressing it without insulting me, or people who might criticize him for being too old for the part.
And I have to wonder, like I said, how many people actually had a problem with it. I mean, is it the same kind of people that are like, well, if you're going to play a 27-year-old person, you have to be 27 years old.
To be fair,
got to be the same race, and you got to be the same whatever.
I didn't know he was 49.
Well, this is what I was about to lead up
49. I'm thinking he's in his 30s.
When you have and let's jump to the other side of it, right? When you have an actress like Michelle Yeoh, when you have an actress like Ming-Na Wen, both lovely women.
Yes.
Okay. That are way older than I would have ever guessed that they were.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, Maron. I look at him. I wouldn't have, if you hadn't told me how old he was, I never would have guessed.
No, neither would I.
I might have thought maybe 30s. Sure, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a little older
than the character, but no, I wouldn't have guessed 49. And to be fair, I did see pictures of him, and it's like, at least he's working out for the part, unlike certain actors playing a certain Dark Knight. I'm not going to name names, because I know that crowd gets upset.
Well, okay, so let's get into that, because that's our next bit, because it ties directly into exactly this, right? Yeah. The article is that John Cho trained like a superhero for Cowboy Bebop, the anime classic remake. He trained like a superhero. So, okay, so you're too old. You busted your hump in order to play that role, okay? So Ding Dong bitch, who's like, well, my waist isn't skinny enough. Well, then maybe you should have worked out with John Cho.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Well, she's
instead of complaining and bitching at the fans.
She's knocking her looks. Here's the deal. Do I really like the new costume? No. She doesn't even have the headband that the character wore. But you know.
Oh yeah. Well, apparently she wouldn't be able to do the stunts with that headband.
But, if the worst part of the show was the fact that her costume was different, that wouldn't be the worst thing ever. Okay.
I'm sorry. I just look at. I hear her say that, and I just say, you know what? Fuck you, because I have seen too many.
Oh yeah.
And not just the main actresses, but the stunt actresses, like what's her name? The redhead.
Oh.
Help me out. She was in Night of the Living Dead.
Patricia Tallman.
Patricia Tallman. She's worn all the outfits. She's worn the makeup, the appliances, all that kind of shit. And she did all the stunts and never complained once.
Do you know she was in Austin Powers?
I'm not surprised. She was in a lot of TV shows and movies.
You know who she played in Austin Powers? She said, "Can I get you a drink, Mr. Powers?" Yes, and then he punches her, and he says, why did you hit that woman? That's not a woman, it's a man." And they switched out the actor, and it's this ugly dude.
The fact that it was her, that makes that gag so much funnier, because she's usually
she's a very, very pretty, feminine-looking woman. Okay,
but she's also the one that would be the stunt double. You know, in that kind of a gag, right?
Yeah, and the funny thing was he does it later on with, I don't know, I think Basil Exposition's mother in the future, and no, it's not, no, she's not a, that's a joke made from a Connery movie, one of the Connery movies where he punches out Jack Bouvard, who was disguised as his widow.
Yeah.
And instead it's him in the disguise. And you could tell if you look carefully at the scene before, and it was obviously an actress playing the widow, and then they switch the actors, and then it's him. Do you understand?
Right, exactly. Well, it's kind of the same gag that you get in a more sophisticated way with the Mission Impossible, where you got one actor playing it, and then they pull off a mask, and it's another actor underneath.
Of course, yes. They played around with that with even in the Avengers movies. Remember with Scarlett Johansson as the older woman. Remember that was she had that mask.
And I thought that was very, very well done.
Yeah, it was in Winter Soldier actually. I remember that.
Sometimes it's not quite as hokey, but yeah, I mean that's exactly what I'm getting at with this. You know, it's like we've had too many people do this. If you can't do it, then maybe you should just not be taking this role, bitch.
I'm serious. Well, here's the deal. Okay, let's read from this interview, and I'm going to explain something else. Were you a fan of the original anime Cowboy Bebop? His response: I didn't know it. The first thing I read and fell in love with was our episode 1 script, which I thought was really brilliant, and I thought, what the hell is this? And then I investigated the anime and just thought it was the most unique piece of entertainment I had seen in a long time. The combination of genres, characters, and music. I called Anish Chagranti, who directed The Searching, to talk about it. Are you aware of a show called Cowboy Bebop? I got this offer to do an adaptation of the anime. Remember him telling me you have to do it. I didn't realize what a big deal it was. Here's the deal. Here you go. Oh my goodness. He was. I guess I should actually watch the anime that the
Look, let me tell you. You want to do something. You want to do something that's got a fandom. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to say, "Oh, I love all the Star Wars. I love them all. You know, it's all Star Wars to me, all of it." No. Don't give me that bullshit.
Yes.
What you do is you say exactly what he did. I had no idea what this was when I was cast, and then I looked into it and I loved it. So you don't come off as fake. You are a new fan who doesn't know as much as all the longtime fans, but you know, has an appreciation of it, and you will find the fans are very appreciative of that. And I'll tell you something, that's one thing that I can say about, I can't say many good things about Star Trek Discovery, but I will say that Mary Chieffo, who played L'Rell, the Klingon Chancellor,
yes,
she said, I never watched Star Trek, I didn't know anything about it, but boy did I dig into it, and I really have gone after learning the language, and sure enough, she sure did. Her pronunciation is spot on.
Yeah, this is why.
And she is good with the fans, and the fans love her for it. It's like, I almost want to say to her, I hate everything about your show, but you're awesome, you know?
This is one of the reasons why, unless an actor runs their mouth, like the previous one we were just talking about, and does stupid things, even if I hate something, I tend to try not to attack the actress, because you don't know, that actor could just be trying his or her hardest to make it as well good as and it still turns out like crap, but maybe they weren't the issue. That's why I try not to attack the actors unless they're doing stupid stuff like Danielle Pineda has obviously done so far, which, you know, just admit you done screwed up. That would go a long way, but maybe too late for that. I don't know. Anyway, what made you say? Oh, and by the way, I want to make another point too, that he was saying he went out and watched the anime. Do you remember the movie Needful Things with Max von Sydow as Leland Gaunt in the Stephen King adaptation?
No, I don't think I saw it.
Okay, he basically plays a character called Leland Gaunt, and the character is basically the devil. Okay, that's who he's playing. And someone asked Max von Sydow in an interview, how did you prepare for this role? And he said, I read the book. And I'm like,
that's brilliant.
Because it's based on I should read the Stephen King novel to understand this character.
I'll tell you what, that's why this gal who's playing the Lady Jessica in Dune, she took a lot of shit for her comments about the source material. It's like, you clearly, well, she even was saying, I tried to read it and I just couldn't get more than 20 pages into it. It's like, just listen to the director and do what you're told and shut up.
Oh no. Why? Is that Rebecca Ferguson?
Yeah, that's her.
Oh no!
And she made
Okay.
some comments about um, uh, any changes that are made are good because anybody who wrote a book back then had to be sexist, and it's like
Oh, stop talking,
you
please.
clearly don't know what this is about.
I
Okay,
don't
you
know.
don't need to change anything to get a feminist message across with this movie.
Oh my goodness. Okay, moving on with the interview. Okay,
Yeah.
what made you say yes? That's. Oh, that makes me feel a little bad for Dune. We'll see what happens. Like I said, shut up and listen to the director. Good director
Yes.
on that project. I'm nervous about the director on this
If I
project.
could, if you don't mind, I do want to give, because we always try to plug where we get our information from.
Yes,
If you
go
want
right
to hear
ahead.
more about the Dune and that particular item and whatnot, get over to Fresh Baked Nerd Cookies. She covers it really, really well. And she probably has the same kind of love for these franchises we do. She hates when they get distorted, but she's got a beautiful voice. And she's so much more fun to listen to than me.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I agree with you there. Oh, unless Eris brings up a point about the character of Faye Valentine. Yeah. Do you know what the character of Faye Valentine? What her storyline is on Cowboy Bebop?
I don't at all, no.
This is her storyline. It's been a while since I've watched the anime, but this is what I believe was she's bringing it up. Faye came from a very respectable family, and she was basically in our modern times. Okay, she got a rare illness, and she was going to die, but her family decided to cryogenically freeze her to a point where they can unfreeze her and cure the disease. You know, that's always a thought about cryogenic freezing.
Cryogenics, yeah, sure.
So they unfreeze her, they cure her disease. She's perfectly well, and then she's into debt up to her eyeballs and can't get out of it. In this future, she doesn't know, doesn't have a skill set for. That's why you understand. It's kind of a tragic character in that. But anyway, let's move on. Article. What made you say yes? I don't know. It was a real gut thing.
I don't know. Maybe it was the money. Sorry.
Well, I don't know. I'm wondering how much these people are actually getting paid for them to be acting like this. I mean,
I don't know. Was he working on anything else? If you're looking for a job, you'll take it.
I think he was Sulu in those Star Trek movies, right? The Abrams ones, I believe.
Was he?
I believe
Is that
so.
the
Yeah.
same character? Is
I
that
think
the same
so.
actor?
I think so. I hope so. Otherwise, we're going to think. Anyway, I don't feel that I took any shortcuts as I'm prone.
Oh
to
my
do.
gosh, you're right. It is.
Yes.
Oh, for crying out loud. He could totally play a 27-year-old or whatever you said he was.
I'm fine with it. And I know I mentioned the other week that.
And then he can go to White Castle right afterwards.
Yes, of course. And then
Sorry.
I mentioned, I think I mentioned this Mike Spiegel was Jewish, but to be fair, that's only a fan theory. Other people have said he's Asian. He could be mixed. I don't know. So
yeah.
Anyway, is this your most physically demanding role you've had? Yeah, it was an actual cool lesson. As a non-athletic person, I was kind of a dick the other way. I didn't give that kind of acting enough credit. I was like a nerd snob. For this role, everything came from training. My character decisions came from that. Training is also a more accurate parallel to how to get a good performance. When I was younger, I thought I could tap into some sort of muse and have the thing strike me. I'm telling you, he's sounding like Robert Pattinson right now.
Yeah.
Like this is where he was, and he's like, no, this was the wrong way to go.
Right.
It's actually more pronounced harder than that, which is you just
what
drill it.
What he is describing is a very mature attitude that I don't see from enough American actors. Okay. I see this a lot from British actors. Okay. Who are less likely to get full of themselves, that have classical training, that work very, very hard at learning accents and, reading and, studying and, I mean, they take it as a profession that needs to be honed. Whereas you're absolutely right. Most Americans have that attitude that he described when he was younger. I'm just going to go to California and I'm good looking and I'll, get into Hollywood. And that's how you get torn apart. You don't have the talent.
Nope.
And you're going to take a bunch of crap roles and you got to do some nasty things to get those roles.
But I am going to say, just look at the attitude of these two actors, though. It's like night and day.
Very, very different. Yeah.
Okay. Did you get to meet Yoko Kanno, the composer of the series? I haven't. She was in Japan the whole time. I made sure that she was locked in before saying yes. I didn't think the show should go forward without her involvement. She is too integral to the show. Our iteration minus her would have suffered too much. Oh, I agree. The music on the original Cowboy Bebop is essential for that show. And I thought they should at least, if they were going to do a live-action remake, at least get the license for the old score and use the old score on the remake. But apparently she's writing the score, which is interesting. Why is he doing that, though? Shouldn't that be whoever's producing and directing it understand the importance of this? Okay.
Maybe he's taking that role because he feels passionate about it.
I don't know.
I have to believe that's the case if he'd bother saying this.
Anyway, we got to start wrapping this up. We got a lot more stuff to get to tonight, but this is, I'm telling you, no more on this show for a while. Hopefully, because I'm going to say this. I don't think the show is going to be good. I don't necessarily want to watch it, but I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope that maybe. Yeah, I'm probably not going to be. Okay, last thing. This is from a few months ago, but people have been treating it like a recent news story because it's kind of important. Okay. Cowboy Bebop's creator wants fans to know one thing about the live action series. Young Rippa was talking about this tonight too. Okay. Netflix has been open about its interest in anime over the years, and the streaming giant has made it clear that it wants to dominate the medium overseas. With a slew of original shows on the hand, Netflix is branching out to reach. Okay, blah, blah. Okay, the conversation verse via a talk quest dates back to 2019 when news was first shared of the Netflix's Cowboy, that live-action plan. It didn't take long for the Cowboy Bebop corrector Shinichiro Watanabe to be asked about the whole ordeal. It was there the artist said he read the concept for Netflix's plan and gave notes, but he was not sure whether his suggestions would be used. That's right. I read the initial concept and provided my opinions, but I'm not sure if they will be reflected in the final product, Watanabe said. Continuing, the creator said that he would have a soured view of the live-action romp should it ignore his notes, but in the end, Watanabe made sure to stress he has no power in impacting or stopping the production. It all comes down to Sunrise, the studio that produced Cowboy Bebop back in the day. I have no choice but to pray and hope that it will turn out good. Also, for Cowboy Bebop, I don't have any right to stop it. Those rights are in the hands of Sunrise, so if you have a complaint, please send it to them. Now, Young Ripper was making a point that he's not sure what this guy was doing, signing over the rights and whatnot. And I want to make a point that this guy, I don't believe he had anything to do with the original manga, the comic book that was written that Sunrise bought to make into the anime, and then he was basically hired on, and he says, "Here's this property we have, Cowboy Bebop. What do we want me to do with it? You can do whatever you want. Just make sure there are plenty of spaceships available so we can sell model kits." Other than that, he was basically given complete freedom. Okay.
Yeah.
And adapted. I think the original manga is a bit different. I'm not saying it's bad. I just think it's different. I think saying that he has the rights to it is like saying Christopher Nolan has the rights to Batman. Okay.
Right.
He made the Dark Knight trilogy. That's his work, but beyond that, anyone else can do another Batman movie, as of course we're going to be seeing in a little bit. I think that's the analogy I might use for this. Okay,
and when you get to the rights of a company that owns a franchise, then we've got to start talking about licensing, and that's what's happening here. You've got a company over in Japan that owns something, and they're licensing it out because somebody has said they'll pay to be able to do this live-action American version of it, and they're like, okay, do what you want. Give us money, and because really this isn't, despite what these MFers here in the United States are saying, this is not canon on what they own, over in Japan.
Mr. Matchstick, are you sure? Because what was Cowboy Bebop Shooting Star? Wasn't that made before the anime? I could be wrong, but I don't know. I know they also made manga based on the anime that was separate from Shooting Star, but anyway, I don't know. The anime came first, manga was a follow-up. Are we talking about Shooting Star here, though? I don't know. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But anyway.
I think you're putting more thought into it than these live-action people are, because they don't know from nothing. They probably read an outline, figured out who the characters were, and they're going to make up their own shit as they go. That's my prediction.
Shooting Star came later. Oh, I don't have time to do research on this. You're supposed to do the research before your stream. Anyway, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I that's the impression I got, and that they had bought the rights to an older manga. But maybe I'm wrong. Okay, let's go move on to Frank. Okay, and of course, Danielle Pineda. This is an official article, but Cording was talking about it. Forced to take down her original video. I don't know if she was forced to.
Yeah,
disappear. Okay.
I did note in our notes that I feel that Jeremy kind of was being a little bit, and he does this. His title there is a little clickbaity, because all he notes is that it was taken down. Whether she was forced to or not, that's up to speculation. But the fact is, it was taken down. Yeah. And all so somebody figured out they done effed up.
Melissa Harris, what's next? Is Netflix going to ruin Outlaw Star? Oh, let's hope not. Let's hope not. Okay. Oh, Shooting Star came after. Okay. Well, anyways, I guess no one bothered to adapt that. Uh, okay. So Outlaw Star, don't touch Outlaw Star. If I were to recommend an anime for you to watch, it would be Outlaw Star because it's basically a space opera if Han Solo was the main character instead of
Oh,
Luke Skywalker.
nice.
It's really cool. But anyway, okay. Frank Oz. Speaking of Star Wars, sort of the
Uh-huh.
voice of Yoda.
Oh, yeah.
Frank Oz says he's not welcome to perform with the Muppets or on Sesame Street. Disney doesn't want me.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Controversy.
Well, maybe a little constructed controversy, but let's get into it.
All right. Let's see here. Yeah, you think it's a constructive? Okay, so for
Well,
generation,
no. Why don't you
I'll
fill
read.
in the?
Let me read it. Let me just
Yeah.
read it. Okay.
And I'll be right back while you're reading it because I know all
Okay.
this.
All right. All right. For generations of children. Oh, you know what? Let me hold on. Shooting Star was released about 6 months before the anime, so maybe it was planned as part of the run-up. But the anime would have been well developed before it was released. Oh, maybe they were being worked on at the same time. Okay, that makes sense. And all right, never mind. Apparently, that's famous from the beginning. Let's get back to Jim Henson, Frank Oz. For generations of children, Muppets master Jim Henson and Frank Oz were a comedy duo on the level of Abbott and Costello and Laurel and Hardy. Even after Jim Henson's death in 1990, Oz continued to portray such beloved characters such as Miss Piggy, Fozzie Bear, Bert, and Grover. Since the early 2000s, though, the puppeteer and filmmaker have been an infrequent presence in the extended Muppetverse, a decision that Oz himself didn't make. In a revealing new interview with The Guardian, Oz claims that he's essentially been forced into retirement from the current powers that be that control the Muppets and Sesame Street, respectively. Disney acquired the rights to the Muppets in 2004. Sesame Street is controlled by Sesame Workshop, which has a streaming deal with Warner Media. I'd love to do the Muppets again, but Disney doesn't want me, and Sesame Street hasn't asked me for 10 years, Oz says. They don't want me because I won't follow orders and I won't do the kind of Muppets they believe in. Oz goes on to say that he deliberately avoids watching anything Muppet related now. The soul's not there. The soul is what makes things grow and be funny, but I miss them and love them. Oz continues to target Disney in the interview, suggesting that tension over the studio's earlier attempt to acquire the Muppets may have contributed to the illness that claimed Henson's life. The Disney deal is probably what killed Jim. It made him sick, he says. Michael Eisner, Disney's then chairman and CEO, was trying to get Sesame Street 2, which Jim wouldn't allow. But Jim was not a dealer. He was an artist, and it was destroying him. It really was. There is an inability for corporate America to understand the value of something they bought. Oz continues. They have never understood with us. It's not just about the puppets. It's about the performers who love each other and have worked together for many years. Oz hasn't been shy about expressing his disappointment about the current state of the Muppets before. In fact, he famously turned down the opportunity to reprise his characters in Disney's 2011 film, The Muppets, due to concerns about the screenplay by Jason Segel and Nicholas Stoller. I wasn't happy with the script, Oz told the UK newspaper Metro at the time. I don't think they respected the characters. He later doubled down on those criticisms at a 2019 panel at the South by Southwest Film Festival, dismissing the latter-day Muppet movie as smarmy. Oz shared his concerns about Sesame Street in a 2017 interview with Yahoo Entertainment, accusing it of becoming a little kid show that limited to the evolution of the characters and the puppeteers playing them. They're in a difficult situation, Oz added. They're doing their very best, and they really are trying to be true to the characters, and they actually are, but because they're not inside me, they don't know the soul as much. In the same interview, Oz shared his prescription for how Disney could cure what ails the Muppets. I don't think the answer is to do something new. I think the answer is to go back and be true to who they are, he remarked. There's nothing new to do except to dig deeper into their purity and innocence and what speaks to the audience. What do you think, Troy? Any thoughts?
Yeah. So, first, this, I think, is something that a lot of people are not giving enough weight, okay? When he talks about his being the spirit of those characters, right? He's talked about things that he was directly involved in. The Ernie and Bert thing, anything about the characterization of Miss Piggy and even Yoda, right? People have to understand that for all that we give to actors, okay, who portray a role, we're talking about Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker and so on and so forth. And if you recast that role, they lose something of that character, right? They bring something to it. And I think we're seeing with people like Andy Serkis, when he plays Caesar, when he plays Gollum, okay, when he plays King Kong, right? He has a way of emoting through that character. Part of him is in that character. And if you replace him, you change that character. And I would say, bringing it back to Frank Oz, we see that most clearly in episode 1 of Star Wars. Okay? When they bring back Yoda and he's all CG. Yes, the voice was still Frank Oz, but there was something wrong with the way the CG was portraying him. So they did an updated special edition, and then going forward with the movies, they redid the way they were doing the animation. Frank Oz contributed to that. And they said, one of the things you need to imagine is the skeleton underneath, and that skeleton is my hand inside that puppet.
Yeah.
Okay? And the ears got to flop. And the emotion in this, and this is a reminder that a CG animator is just like different medium, but doing the exact same job as a puppeteer. Exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting because you bring up in the original edition of the Phantom Menace that was released theatrically, it was still the puppet. Later on, when they made the special edition, or maybe when they brought it to DVD, they CG'd it. Because that's what he was like in Attack of the Clones.
Was that what it was? Maybe I had it backwards.
That's when they were pointing out it didn't look right because people had just seen the puppet, and that's when he said you have to make it still act like a puppet, even if it is a CG character.
And I think he even said there's nothing wrong with making it CG, but you got to have the same mindset. Yep. You literally have to be the puppeteer, and you've got to create it in the computer. You're creating that Muppet. As I did physically, you're just doing it in the digital world, but you're doing the same job. And he's dead on when he refers to it as he is the soul of that character, right? And if you replace him, you lose the soul of that character. So that's the primary thing that I wanted to get across. Now, did you want me to take it to some of the other people have been saying about this and how I feel about it?
Yeah, well, I notice you have a question here. Why now? Why are there no Muppets?
That was my. I actually forgot I put that in the notes.
Yeah, well, bring it up. You brought that in there for a reason.
Yeah. So this, and again, I want to give a credit where credit is due. This is a comment that came from Kamran Pasha on Midnight's Edge. Remember, he's the inside guy. He really does write for Hollywood and has been in this industry for a long time. And so does a great job of looking at these articles when they come out and saying things like, who is the audience? Why is this coming out now? So the Scarlett Johansson thing, why is it coming out now? Because it's happening right now. Why is this interview happening with Frank Oz right now? He's not working on anything. There is no Muppet thing going on where they, said, we don't want you. Why is he talking about this now? Why not, the last Muppet project or the last Star Wars project or whatever? Why so detached from any of the projects that are going on? So maybe the motivation isn't him just, bemoaning his situation. Maybe someone told him, hey, Frank, you should tell your story. There have been a lot of theories. So don't take any of this as holy writ, but it's speculative and it fits this idea that of why it's happening now. There's a lot of talk going on about Kathleen Kennedy, what's going on at Lucasfilm, so on and so forth. And everyone needs to remember one thing that we have not been talking about through all of this. You know who's a big stockholder in Disney?
Who?
George Lucas.
Uh-huh.
That's something we all forget when we talk about the Civil War going on at Lucasfilm, right? But You know, when we talk about what the shareholders want, yes, they want profit, but Lucas wants the heart and soul of Star Wars. And he famously, publicly referred to Disney as, it's like working for white slavers.
Yikes.
And now if he owns stock in them, you better believe he's doing something about that. And you know, who we talk about, you know, the mechanizations of Favreau and Filoni and what's going on behind the scenes. Nobody's talking about the mechanizations of George Lucas behind the scenes. How much of all the things we attribute to someone like Favreau might have had to do with, you know, maybe Filoni, his relationship with George Lucas. We've seen a lot of pictures of Favreau and Filoni together with George Lucas. We've been saying that the fight has been between Favreau and Kennedy. I think it's between Kennedy and Favreau and Filoni and George Lucas, and now he's bringing in Frank Oz to be one of the foot soldiers to go and get this message out. Because how everybody who is reacting to this is, that's bullshit. That's not right. And I would argue that someone else that's on their side is Bob Chapek. Because he has no problem with looking bad in the public eye to get the changes made he wants to make.
I want to bring something up, though. This is not the first time we've talked about Frank Oz on the stream. Remember last year, or was it earlier this year? He was attacking people that were attacking Rian Johnson. Remember?
I don't remember. Refresh my memory.
Okay, I have a quote. Okay, actor Frank Oz, who plays Yoda in the Star Wars franchise, responded to a troll writing on Twitter, "It's sad to me that you're harbored this internal darkness for so long about a movie. Rian is a great director, writer, and human being. Please try to understand that writers and directors are not there to fulfill audience expectations. Good work breaks expectations."
Well, and that's a fair thing to say when you're working on a project with him, right?
Right.
It's not until after. What was the last thing you said? Good work, was it? What was that about good work?
Good work breaks expectations.
Right. Good work breaks expectations. And when you're working on a project, you expect it to be good work. When you get to the other side and you see what it actually is, yeah, good work breaks expectations. But poor work, purposely subverting expectations, that doesn't age well.
No.
You know?
Anyways.
And I would not fault any actor who's working on a project doing everything he can to support the project, you know. Hey, I think it's going to be great. Even Mark Hamill, even though, you know, you always saw big cracks in the thing, he did all the junkets and he went out and, you know, I think it's going to be pretty good. You know, it's not my Star Wars, but, you know, I think it's still going to be good. You know, he's talking out of both sides of his face there.
Whatever is going on in
I would say, by analogy, this is Frank Oz's, you know, this is not my Star Wars moment. This is, I was playing Yo-Yo Yodel or something, you know, Jake Yoda, you know, this is him. Mark was doing it back then. Frank has split those two things. Instead of saying both at the same time, he's coming out now and going back on it.
Gotcha.
You know? I mean, I'll tell you, this is the same guy who didn't really have a problem, you know, saying what he thought about the whole Bert and Ernie thing. Because, again, he's like, well, you can say whatever you want now, and they own it, and they can do whatever they want. But at the time, that's not what we were doing.
Okay.
You know, and that's not what we would do now if Jim was still alive and doing this.
You know, what I wouldn't give to be a fly on the wall inside Disney to find out what exactly is going on, because it's...
Well, and it's the whole parable of the guy in the cave, right? We can't see out of the cave, but we can see the shadows on the wall that give us... We can draw inferences about what's going on.
I am going to say this. I was rather disturbed by the latest, one of the more recent Doomcock videos. I think we talked about this, or maybe I brought this up with Bud Boy on Friday, but Matt, the whole idea that Andor is probably going to be a Kathleen Kennedy project, and obviously the Acolyte is.
Yeah.
So do we have competing projects? High Republic is Kennedy. I don't know what Rogue Squadron is. I don't know. Is that
we
another
have
Kennedy project?
we have competing projects.
I think
like,
we do. Yes, I think
but
we do.
you have competing projects like you have competing basketball teams when you have the Harlem Globetrotters playing against the Celtics. Okay, I mean, there's real sports and then there's play. And that's what this basically is. And I think we're going to be getting some news in the very near future about Kathleen Kennedy and her future with Disney. And if it goes the way some people are saying, then what they're doing is they're patting her on the head and they're giving her a lollipop and they're saying, go do your thing over there. Big people are doing big people things right now. Okay. We'll see. And I think we're seeing a lot of that right now. And I would say, you got to keep in mind that Bob Chapek has inherited something from the other Bob. What's his name? Bob wants to be Chinese president, but isn't gonna be.
Bob Iger.
Bob Iger. Thank you very much. There were Kathleen Kennedy and her story group and all the people involved in that, they're doing these books, the High Republic, the Geode and the Gay Assy and all the other stuff, right? They were contracted to do these things. You got to do so many books and you're going to be paid whether, they make a profit or not. Well, they have to make a decision. Are we going to just pay them out of their contract and basically pay them for nothing? Or are we going to go ahead, make the books, we'll market them, see if we can make some money back? Take a portion of it rather than nothing. Because either way, they're making their money. And I think that's all of these legacy projects, these books, these comic books, Cassian Andor and whatever else they actually have in production that they're obligated to make, they're going to go ahead and make them. Okay. And if they're going to lose money, but if they make some money's better than no money. Right. And I think
Yeah, it's going to muddy the waters, though. But I guess we know what to look for and what to ignore. I guess, right?
But yeah. I do think that there's nothing that has muddied the waters more than the sequel trilogy, and I think that Favreau and Filoni and all of them are handling that masterfully. Right? They are overwriting them. They are changing continuity as they go, and I think it's going to come down to. Eventually, they're going to be the ones in the situation to go, you know what? All of these projects, those are the EU now. And I would encourage everyone who's listening now who actually cares about this topic, tune in to my show on Friday where I will be bringing back the lovely and talented Stephanie Janicek of Stephanie Janicek's Smuggler's Cantina. We'll be talking more about the EU and what we see happening going forward. But what is canon and what is not is going to be shifting just the way Kathleen Kennedy threw everything on the dumpster pile and said all that EU is non-canon. Well, guess what? A lot of it's coming back in-house, and a lot of it's becoming canon again, and the things that she made are going to be becoming a non-canon going forward.
Gotcha. So moving on.
Sorry for the self-promotion, but,
No, what? No, you're fine. I will be there, too, so you can hear me on that stream.
Well, that's true. It's your show, too, damn it. So,
yeah. Let's promote Stephanie Janicek. She's been name dropped by Doomcock himself, okay? So,
yes, she has. So, and Kamran Pasha and Midnight's Edge all the time.
She's a known quantity, okay?
When she and Mexican Iron Man and even Matt from Bud Boy Productions comes on my show, it's like I feel like wow, I got celebrities coming on my show,
Yes. No, definitely. So check it out, and he also check out his last stream with her. It's on his channel too. You can see that too.
Yep, absolutely.
But, this was the latest Doomcock rumor, and of course, unfortunately, there's no transcript of it, so I'm just going to tell you what I've heard. Okay.
Yeah.
Take this with a grain of salt, as he always says.
As he himself says, right? Exactly.
This had better be a grain of salt, and this had better be a bunch of BS. Okay. Disney bought 20th Century Fox. Out of all the horrible things Disney has done over the years, this is the one that I was most upset by. Because 20th Century Fox it was a flawed studio, but it put out good stuff. It put out a lot of good movies in our last decade. Okay. Yeah. And the fact that Disney just was able to walk in there and destroy a competing studio, and trust me, this has had a major effect on Hollywood in general, because now all the other studios are scared of Disney, because look how huge Disney has now become with the purchase of who's their competition at this point. Really, think about it. I don't know. But Disney's plan to destroy Planet of the Apes. Here's what he's been told. Okay, what he was told was that they were going to remake the original Planet of the Apes. Now, I kind of figured that 20th Century Fox, when they were doing their Rise of Planet of the Apes trilogy, the Caesar trilogy, as I call it, that they were eventually going to get to Taylor and the astronauts, right?
Right.
They even set it up in the first movie. They were talking on the news about I don't know if it was like a Mars mission or an expedition that gets lost in space. While the whole disease thing in society starting to unravel, you see a story on the headline that the space mission was lost. I knew that was in there to set it up for a future movie where Taylor would come about.
Yeah, well, they even name dropped the name of the ship, and I think they may have even mentioned the characters. From the original,
which was very clever, because in my opinion, you could do your Caesar trilogy, and then you can do later on a Taylor trilogy that takes place hundreds of years later.
Or if you never get to it, then the fans can always assume
it's the Charlton Heston.
This is still in canon, and it all fits and it all works.
Exactly. But apparently, according to Doomcock's video, they were going to give it they were going to remake the original Planet of the Apes with a feminist twist. With Lieutenant Marianne Stewart, the one female that was part of the crew, was going to be the main character, and Taylor was going to be a horrible sexist misogynist that would get killed off, and Dr. Zira was now the leader of the ape civilization instead of it, and there was going to be a lesbian relationship between Lieutenant Marianne Stewart and Nova, and all this other nonsense that sounds just about as awful as can be. So awful in the fact that I don't really believe it, but you never know what goes on behind the scenes. Maybe this was pitched at a meeting somewhere. I don't know.
Well, this is one of Doomcock's theories, which is plausible, is this could very well be, and he said that the source that brought this to him came to him, right? Unsolicited. He didn't ask about this. It was sent to him. And he is himself posited that sometimes the information that is given to him is he's being used for marketing reasons. Put this out there, see what your fans say, we'll see what your fans say, and then we'll decide whether we want to go forward with it or not. So the reaction that people have to it will tell Disney, yeah, this is a great idea, go with it, or better not do this, we'll lose the fans. And it would be entirely in keeping with someone like Bob Chapek, who's deciding whether or not something gets greenlit. Well, let's see what people say about this. Leak it out there. Yeah, we're not going to have another Star Wars sequel situation going on here. Fuck this noise. No. Or not. Maybe this is also him just giving himself cover. Okay, you go ahead and go with this. This is the reaction we're having. Let's see how this plays out, dumbass. You're fired.
Well, this can't happen, okay? Don't do it. And the reason I say this, nothing's going to hurt the original Planet of the Apes movies, but I think that this would completely shatter the work that they did on this recent trilogy that they made, which I thought was rather good. Yeah. And you already have a great foundation now, and you can just roll with that into a new trilogy. And
I get what you're saying, but I would posit that there's always the possibility that they do this. It tanks big time, like the sequel trilogy, or even worse, something like Ghostbusters 2016, right? And then that leaves Disney open to do a course correction, right? And because we're dealing with time travel, because we're dealing with alternate realities, we just say that's one possible timeline, but our trilogy leads into this, actually. And then they do another movie that sets them back on course, and they keep going with it. If they want to develop a Planet of the Apes going forward. If not, they just let it die, and we have our Caesar trilogy, we have the old original movies, and we're good.
And we can ignore the birds.
Which really is where most of the Planet of the Apes fans are at this point. Just let it be. We're happy with what we've got so far. And it did seem to be how Disney was feeling about it after the acquisition of 20th Century Fox.
But I was so excited for what could have come after the Caesar trilogy. I am going to say this. I knew that the third one, War for the Planet of the Apes, I think it underperformed a little bit.
It did.
And at the same point, which
at least also was Disney's impetus for not really greenlighting anything immediately.
Yeah, and I understand that, but let some time go by. Plus, those effects were amazing. They actually look like actual apes. Okay.
Yeah, they did.
Emotive apes. Like instead of, don't get me wrong, the mask work in the original movies were great too. But yeah. I actually thought it was interesting how you actually could have like them be actual gorillas and chimpanzees now with the effects. That was good CG. I usually pick up CG.
I do feel
good CG. Okay?
I do feel like one of the things that they missed an opportunity on is I would have liked to have seen. Forgive me, but hear me out. I would have liked to have seen more diverse apes. Okay, you could have had bonobos. You could have had
bonobos.
A whole bunch of different kinds of apes. You could have had what are those ones? The really vicious ones.
I don't know.
The ones that bear their gums on top.
To be fair, there's nothing saying that they couldn't have been introduced in later movies, because this is basically just Caesar's tribe of the animals he rescued, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's fair.
There could runs into others. That one guy, and he realized, this has affected apes all around the world. He realized that in war. Remember?
That's a good point. Yeah, you're right about that.
So they could have always introduced that. Maybe in other parts of the world, the bonobos got smart and all this other stuff, and you never know. They could have ended up planning that. I know.
Well, and what would be very interesting is right now, the way apes are, they are separated by their geography and so forth. And can you imagine an America, a United States, where you now have all these different apes from all these from the zoos and from all over the world. They start to travel and stuff like that, and you start to have interaction of intelligent apes that never used to interact before, right? So you would have more contact between chimpanzees and bonobos. Maybe you...
it'd be funny if some of the apes spoke Spanish.
Well, or not, if not Spanish. Well, yes, possibly.
Yeah.
But you could really do some interesting messaging, if you want to say it that way, where you have some prejudice between the apes, where you have a chimp mother and a bonobo father, and they have a child that's of mixed species.
Well, they did that. Even that shows up in the original movie. The chimpanzees were just recently given some rights. Remember?
That's right.
When they did the original Planet of the Apes, they were kind of
they had a caste system, right?
A caste system, yeah.
It was almost Star Trek-ish in their caste system, where the gorillas were the warriors,
military,
and the scientists were the chimps, and the keepers of the law, the lawyers
were
the
religious. Were I guess it's the same thing.
Were the what do you call
orangutans?
The orangutans, exactly. Yeah.
So
I could totally see like they have their version of hippies, that are the bonobos, because they're peace and love and, free love and, because that's actually very in keeping with
I'm pretty sure most varieties of primates can't crossbreed.
But that's why I specifically mentioned bonobos and chimpanzees that are very, very close.
And maybe
I didn't say any of the others. I specifically said chimps and bonobos for that reason.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting, actually. You could do so much with Planet of the Apes. There's the time.
Nobody would have a problem with you using this as a method of doing commentaries on, because that was the whole point of Planet of the Apes, right?
Oh, yeah. It was a lot of
making commentary on 60s culture and history and humans.
That's a lot of the point of science fiction.
Yes.
Is to basically talk about issues that we don't really want to talk about verbatim. And so if we ever get around to it on Daniel Heron's stream, I'm going to go off and explain what Blade Runner 2049 is really about. I considered it a commentary on the modern relations between
I'll
the
look
sexes.
forward to seeing that because I am a huge fan of those movies, as well as
2049. I believe was supposed to be a commentary on modern men and modern women. That's what I think. But
that is awesome. I am looking forward to that.
I'll go into it. I mean, I was obsessed when it first came out, like seeing all these things in it. But anyway, okay. But man's hubris will be his downfall. This is the Hail Caesar, the version of Rise of the Planet of the Apes you never saw. That was the theme of Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Screenwriters Amanda Silver and Rick Jaffa built their reimagining of the classic franchise upon when the movie came out 10 years ago this week on August 5th, 2011. Can you believe that? It's a couple weeks old, this article, but I found it. We'll look for the Doomcock.
Sure.
Rise, a prequel that intentionally played it Lucius with its connection to the 1968 original Charlton Heston, was a reboot that had high expectations for. The last time the word reimagining was mentioned alongside Planet of the Apes, it was Tim Burton's expensive and disappointing 2001 entry with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
It's funny. I wouldn't mind seeing Mark Wahlberg as Taylor now, that he's especially
right.
He's an older, more mature actor. I think he would pull it off better, but we can't have him back now because of what happened. But anyway, Rise would succeed where Burton's bloated film failed by using science fiction to tell a more grounded, character-driven cautionary tale, a story told predominantly from the ape's perspective, one specific ape in particular, Caesar, played via motion cap by the scary, talented Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
In Rise, Caesar goes from lab experiment to revolutionary leader as man's latest attempt to play God forces apes to once again dominate the planet as the seemingly more evolved primates, us, succumb to a fatal virus. Caesar's emotionally stirred arc helped Rise of the Planet of the Apes overperform at the box office, thus spawning one of the last decade's best film series. But this wasn't the version of Caesar the filmmakers originally had in mind. In honor of Rise's 10th anniversary, Sci-Fi Wire plays What If and compares some of the movie's original scripts to what fans saw in the final film. Rise of the Planet of the Apes was always envisioned as a movie told primarily from Caesar's point of view. The husband and wife writing duo of Silver and Jaffe pitched a Planet of the Apes reboot to 20th Century Fox in 2006, and at the time, Fox seemingly had no plans for more movies featuring those damn dirty apes. But the screenwriting duo's inventive take was impossible to resist. The idea came together from several different sources and bits I'd been working on and starting for a long time, Jaffa revealed in a 2011 interview. One of them was the amount of people in our country that are raising chimps and primates in their homes, some as pets, many as children. I'd done a lot of research for other projects about genetic engineering, and then I'd been reading a lot of accounts of people who had been attacked by their own chimpanzees after having raised them.
Yeah.
So a lot of...
It's interesting because... We're living in this era of believe the science, right? The science is reality, and I don't disagree with that if you're talking about true science. And people tend to look at those stories of chimps attacking their owners and doing so in terms of, well, they're just animals. You can't read anything into that. But there's a biology that goes into that, right?
Yeah.
There is the natural inclination of chimps that if they see you as like a mother-father type of figure, they will respect you that way, and there's that love and nurture and all that. But there is what happens when those chimps grow up and how they rebel. And when they rebel against their fathers, okay, when male chimps rebel against their fathers in chimp society, they assert themselves. It's part of growing up, right?
Oh, interesting.
And male chimps can fight and be just fine with it. Human in that position dies. Okay? See what I'm saying? There is very real realities that you have to look at when you look at things like testosterone in an adult male. I'm sorry, I know this isn't popular in the social justice world, but if you believe the science, men and women are different, and there are only two sexes. It really... Wow. Got Netter on the other side of the thing, striking a pose and showing how different she is because she's a woman. And Wow. Yes.
Okay, but anyway, good
so
on that, I think.
you insert your own mental image of that. I won't
Okay.
elaborate, but men and women are different, okay? And that's just science. And you ask any scientist and they'll tell you that, okay?
Yes.
But if you pick and choose the pseudoscientists and only listen to them and prevent any actual scientists from talking and expressing themselves on your socialist media because fake news and propaganda, well, fine, whatever. But this is just reality, you know.
People want to believe they can be anything these days, even when it's not possible.
Even when it's not possible, even when you want to believe, anyone can feel the way they want. I can feel like a chimp until the chimp rips my head off,
Exactly. Well, that's the issue here. But anyway, they go on to say the idea centered on a scientist, Will, played by James Franco, struggling with his staff at Genesis Labs to develop a retrovirus that could cure Alzheimer's, especially Will's dad, played by John Lithgow. Will's attempts to find the disease's cure ironically creates a pandemic that wipes out most of humankind. Before that catastrophe occurs, Will develops a deep bond with his most successful test subject, Caesar, who Will takes home. There, Caesar develops increased cognitive abilities as a result of the drug trials. Caesar's accelerated evolution sets him on a tragic but necessary path to leader of the apes. I have to say, I actually kind of felt for the James Franco character.
Yes.
I understand
at the same time that
do.
you do for Caesar as well.
Exactly. Because obviously, anyone who's had a family member with Alzheimer's knows it's like you're losing them, but they're not dying at once. It's like a little bit at a time, and they're losing who they are, and it's rough. So I understand why anyone would want to cure a loved one, and it's not a bad place that was coming from. That's what made it more complicated. It's not just Franco's the bad guy. Not really. Maybe it's hubris. They're right, but it came from a place of love. But anyway, it took Jaffa and Silver 4 drafts to lock in on the cure for
Actually,
Alzheimer's.
wait a minute. Back up a second. It wasn't hubris. It was desperation.
Yeah.
But either way that you look at that, any scientist will tell you when you rush the science, there's you cut corners and you end up with a bad situation. You end up with Fukushima. You definitely end up with Chernobyl. That's what happens when you cut corners.
Or Kirk's son when he rushed the Genesis project.
And when you and when you cut corners on retroviruses, when you cut corners on genetics, such as retrovirus genetics vaccines, you could end up with bad situations. Just saying.
But it took 4 drafts to lock in on the you're making a modern commentary there.
I am.
Yes, let's hope. Anyway, cure for Alzheimer's subplot, but the core story remained the same. Only what Will was working on and some of what Caesar was rebelling against would change. Some early drafts, a more sinister Will was using apes to develop a drug that could make humans smarter. I could see that being worked on in a certain part of the world in a certain country, but I won't say where. Okay, an early draft of Caesar.
You mean like a country that worked on human genetics to try to create an immunity to the AIDS virus? And was criticized by the scientific community of the world for doing that.
Maybe.
Hypothetically speaking,
yes. Also included more Easter eggs connected with the 68 original, namely Risewood, Pepper, and fictional TV news footage, chronicling the launch of the voice of 68's film Spaceship Icarus. So they were overdoing it, I think, with the references to the original movie, which I think would have been a mistake. Just give us just enough, because you want to be able to flesh that out later on anyway.
Well, I would be careful with that, too, because if your intent is to be doing prequels and whatnot that tie directly into that, you need to do that, right? You need to make those references if they're tying continuity together.
Just don't overload it. That's my point.
I dig it. There is an art to it.
Give us enough to pique our interest, but not so that
sometimes all it takes is just one little reference to let you know our intent is that, well, like you mentioned earlier with the rocket taking off and mentioning who was on
here's
it.
what I thought was clever. They were talking about the rocket, and I think when I first saw the movie, I didn't even take that this was Taylor's crew. I think I was just, okay, it's the near future, so of course they're doing more with space.
Specifically
and then you see the news article about the mission being lost.
Yeah,
Taylor, that's Taylor.
Yeah,
okay, and I knew it.
It's initially it's just an Easter egg, right?
Yeah.
But then when they do a slight focus on it, what that immediately does is with small references, they imply a whole bunch of, things that they don't actually have to say. You're right.
Let's see. This film will not feature talking monkeys, and it will not end with chimpanzees running wild in the streets, talking, taking over the world. Frank told the now defunct movie set by website Chud in 2010. Frank's version of the movie, a hard science fiction film about genetic engineering, would give Caesar an increasingly anti-human vendetta. He would appear less a Moses figure or more of a violent combo of Spartacus and Michael Corleone. One who grows tired
because he was very careful not to say that he was like Che Guevara or
that's the combination, yeah.
Or Castro or something like that.
Exactly. But according to Silver and Jaffe, this take on Caesar would have given him more of a Michael Corleone trajectory. This iteration, Lithgow's character also did not exist. It was Will and his wife Caesar would imprison his adoptive parents, and his anger toward them would spark an ape revolution. Caesar's desire for revenge appealed to Frank's vision of the character, as he wanted audiences to come to really feel for this ape, even as the final act sees him take actions that may be hard for people to agree with. And while Frank's vision wasn't entirely divorced from the tone and world of Planet of the Apes, it proved too far outside what the execs wanted from a big budget 4-quadrant summer movie. I'm not necessarily against this either. I think they dialing it back was probably the smart road. I think if you had made Caesar, it would have made him too hard for audience to identify with if Will was the pure villain.
I honestly think
Caesar
that
was then acting villainous himself. Okay.
Even though this treatment does sound really good,
it might have been a good movie. Yeah.
My concern would be losing what I thought was brilliant about the way it was before. When you have that scene, when you do finally hear Caesar speak, it's very touching.
Exactly.
That moment between human and ape where you mourn for what could have been.
Yeah.
In all cases, in the cure for his father, in the relationship between him and Caesar, and between humans and apes, what we know is not going to ever happen now.
And you notice that in the sequels, it's I mean, especially the sequels, it's not so much that humans are bad and apes are good or vice versa. They're bad actors on both sides. You know, you learn that going on later.
And which is always going to be in a good, well-written story is always going to be the case. You can, in your heart of hearts say, you know what? The apes are taking over partly because of man's hubris. They're going to possibly make, they're going to use human foibles as an example not to follow, but they're actually going to make a lot of the same mistakes. It's, it's just the way things go. I mean, again, without getting too, modern day, this is the history of the world, the fall of empires and the rise of new ones. And the new ones follow the same cycles, making the same mistakes. You talk about the fall of Rome and the rise of, of the English Empire, the British Empire, the fall of the British Empire and the rise of the United States, the fall of the United States and the rise of who knows what comes next.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully we'll get to that probably in our last articles anyway.
Good point.
Wonder Woman 84 director slams films released on streaming. They look like fake movies. What? I'll read a little bit from this, okay? And if anyone new in the chat, I think somebody new showed up too. Say hi again. I didn't. Okay, but anyway, Wonder Woman 1984 director Patty Jenkins criticized films that are being released via streaming services and called them quote-unquote fake. The 50-year-old expressed her thoughts about the future of big screen during a CinemaCon panel opening up about her distaste for original films released on streaming giants. Aren't you seeing it? All of the films that streaming services are putting out, I'm sorry, they look like fake movies to me, Jenkins said, the Los Angeles Times reported. I don't hear about them. I don't read about them. It's not working as a model for establishing legendary greatness. I don't think the Wonder Woman 1984 plays the same on streaming ever, she continued, before adding, I'm not a fan of day and date, and I hope to avoid it forever. You seem to be Actually, she seemed to be proclaiming it when she was given the deal, though. Never mind. Okay, Jenkins also directed the film's predecessor, Wonder Woman 2017, where it scored $822 million worldwide. I make movies for the big screen experience, she said at the convention. She also stated that she would never make movies for Netflix. However, she likes working with the streaming platform for television. I wouldn't make a movie there or any streaming service with those terms, she said. It's hard to market a movie when it has a limited run. Her comments may seem ironic as Wonder Woman 1984 was supposed to be exclusively released in cinemas last year until the pandemic forced theaters to shut down.
Yeah.
DC movie was subsequently released on HBO Max as well as in theaters simultaneously. Sequel smashed box office records during the lockdown. Okay. Yeah. Supposedly. Okay. I didn't get that impression, but okay. Maybe it did. All right. So what do you think, Troy?
This one, I think, would be better if you gave your opinion first.
Yeah, and you're going to tear into me, probably. Anyway,
No.
No, here's
I am not.
I don't necessarily agree with their tone.
Here's one thing I do want to say first, Boomer.
Yeah, go.
Because setting it up with that joke, it's important for you to understand that I think my opinion is going to differ from yours, but it's not going to be tearing into you.
No,
it's going to be but it speaks to the point of what I'm going to say. It's important that I say that up front. So go ahead.
Let me let my opinion rip.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of agree with her. I'm going to say why.
Mm-hmm.
In me, whenever I watch a movie, including old movies, including smaller features, independent features,
sure,
I always like the idea that this thing has had a theatrical release. And I've often, if I tried, like especially with Japanese animated movies, like when they're on the big screen, I've tried seeing them on the big screen. A lot of those Ghibli movies. I drove to Orlando once, 3 hours just to see Spirited Away on the big screen. Okay.
Right.
I like seeing movies on the big screen, and that's what they're made for. My worry is by stuff going exclusively the streaming. That's on some level, these are no longer being made for the big screen, and the language is going to change of what I'm seeing. And also, it seems like less of a big deal when something just shows up on streaming. I mean, it's one thing if it's had a theatrical release. It just, the magic isn't there. I like going to theaters. I like seeing stuff on the big screen. There's nothing quite like it. Watching something at home is fine if that's the only way you can do it, but I think the movie theater is always king for me, and if the movie theater goes away, I think in a lot of respects movies go away too, because essentially what you're seeing is something made for television. Okay, that's how I feel. But anyway, go ahead, Troy.
Well, I basically agree with you. Okay. And I think that I take that. I'd add to that even. What you're talking about is something that we've talked about many times, the interpretation of a piece of art and what medium you're showing it in. Okay. We've talked about like Alan Moore and how he has been very much against his comic books being turned into films because things are lost in the translation, and what he intended to come across in a comic book doesn't necessarily translate well to a 2-hour movie. Right. You can definitely see that in Watchmen, and I think Watchmen is a great example of the best job of translating it to screen, a comic book to screen. But it's very clear that in doing that, they purposely had to leave things behind that they did give to us in the DVD releases, with added footage and the comic book and the news articles and stuff that you don't get in the movie. That is a part of the experience that is lost. So I agree with that. There are some things that are meant to be seen on the big screen, and when you put them on the small screen, it doesn't translate quite as well. And you're right. I oftentimes think about when I see, a Bogart film I see it on my screen, on my small screen, thinking that, wow, these great classic black and white movies were originally seen on the big screen, you know?
Yeah. Bigger,
And
at least. Yeah.
yeah, and I missed that opportunity. And you're right. I like the idea that they were, but I also know that I'm missing something that is a different experience than my grandmother had when she saw it in the theater.
Especially when you start getting into 1950s and start getting into those bigger budgeted Hitchcock movies like Vertigo and
That's why it's such a treat when you see
biblical epics that were made and all this other stuff.
And when you see like War of the Worlds, okay, at a drive-in.
Yep.
Okay, or at a cinema. You're like, wow, this is the way this is meant to be seen, with a bucket of popcorn, and bobby soxers and, poodle skirts, I mean, just saying.
Yeah. And hey, those need to make a comeback, poodle skirts. I like them, actually. That's actually,
what? That's the way styles work. They tend to come around again eventually. But yeah. I would say that, having said that, and though I do agree with some of the things she says, she is a terrible spokeswoman for that message.
She is. She is.
Because talk about translation, okay? She misses the boat because she's demonstrated that she's a very good director. She's also demonstrated that she's a shitty writer. When you look at Wonder Woman,
or maybe a bad editor might be another.
When you look at Wonder Woman 1 and Wonder Woman 1984, okay? When she talks about these things being fake movies, two problems there. First, that concept of using that word fake, that comes off too much like fake news. And that is very polarizing right now. It's giving the wrong message that you don't want to send.
Right.
Secondly, you're damn right. These movies like Wonder Woman 1984 and a lot of these other ones that are being released are coming off as fake movies. They would have come off as fake movies up on the big screen too, though, because they're shit.
Yeah, like
so you're missing the correlation there. You're ascribing causality to the fact that they're streaming, but sadly they would have been shit up on the big screen too. So that is a bad example to make your point.
Yeah, can I cite actually Greyhound as an example? That was the exclusive Apple TV Plus. Tom Hanks was not happy about that, getting an Apple TV Plus exclusive, because I often wonder too, this would have been a great movie to watch on the big screen. It's World War II. It's these ships at sea. I can only imagine what that would have been like on the bigger screen. Okay, I mean, on the small screen, it was still worth watching, but I would have wondered, and I think he's right. Now, that movie doesn't come off as fake, even though it's only been distributed on a smaller scale. So,
and I would also argue that, again, I went into this saying this is a very nuanced thing, and I think there's a lot more here than even what I've pointed out. I mean, you talk about things like marketing. Okay, there's a lot of great movies out there. Look, we just had a rewatch on Netter's Network of Anna and the Apocalypse, and the thing that Big Al was saying was, I didn't even know this movie existed, and he enjoyed it so much. But where was the marketing for it? That was a failure of marketing. Okay. And there's a lot of movies that are like that. There's a lot of movies out there that get panned because they were billed as one thing, but they were actually something else. And if they'd have been billed as what they were, people would have loved it. Hudson Hawk, a Bruce Willis film, is a great example. It was billed as though it was a Die Hard-like serious movie. And so it was portrayed as though it was Die Hard-ish. And it wasn't that. When you got there, you found it to be a goofy, campy, silly comedy, more like Moonlighting. If they had billed it that way, people would have known what they were getting into and said, this is great, So I definitely see that as the problem with a lot of these movies that are shit movies because of whether it's SJW messaging or just shit writing and bad editing. I don't care if you put that on the big screen or the small screen. It's what sucks.
Okay. This brings me to a point I've been trying to form my head for a few weeks now. I think there's bad writing and bad directing and all this other stuff, and then the SJW stuff is thrown in there as a shield against criticism. That's what I think is going on. I think that's, of course, it's like a chicken and the egg first. Is this bad because of the SJW stuff in it, or would have been? Well, maybe it's not a chicken and the egg. Anyway, never mind. Moving on.
You're absolutely right,
Yeah.
because I would make the argument that I think a lot of people could say that Wonder Woman 1984 wasn't terribly SJW-esque. No. Despite the marketing. Again, there's the marketing for you. Okay?
A lot of things are marketed that way. And
because it was marketed as though it was going to be a big anti-Trump thing, but it wasn't.
No.
Taken on its own merits, there wasn't any of that stuff there, or you'd have to really squint to see it. Okay? It was just a crappy film. And you're right. That marketing was done to try and gloss over what ended up being a shitty movie. They use it as an excuse. Unfortunately, it front loads your failure because people are not responding to it. The get woke, go broke is a realism. It really does happen. And even the woke are getting sick of it because we talk about the woke, the wokosos, the Twitterazzi or whatever you want to call them. I like
the Latino slang term.
As if they were all one group of people, but they're as diverse as anything else. And you have the feminists fighting against the transgendered and saying, getting, butting heads there, and they don't have the same message, even though they're both woke, right?
Yeah.
And so you have people that will point out, well, this is not good for this woke reason, and they're tearing down the woke messaging because it's not their woke message.
This goes back to what we were saying about the actress from Shang-Chi, right? The whole thing about it. Yeah. Okay, but maybe some good news, or maybe just wishful thinking. That's why I put a question mark next to it in the title. I was like, dude, you have to put a question mark next to it. You can't just leave it Alita Battle Angel as if it's happening. But maybe we have our first.
There's still hope. Okay. So that's a good thing.
All right, so let me go ahead and read this. Fans of the first Alita Battle Angel have been desperately trying to get Disney to greenlight a sequel. Well, it looks like Alita Battle Angel 2 might be close to becoming a thing. The director of the first movie, Robert Rodriguez, speaking to the Nerdy Basement, I don't know what that is, and during that interview, he gave hope for the sequel. I'm hoping I'm earning some points by doing so much for Disney because they own it now after buying Fox, and that's why we weren't able to jump right into the sequel because of that whole thing Rodriguez began.
Right.
He also went on to say, I'm trying to see what happens with the Book of Boba Fett. I think that's going to knock people's socks off when that happens. I will go in and say, okay, I've been here for a while. Let's figure out how we can do Alita, whether it's for streaming or theatrical release. It's such a great property. People love it. I love it. And Jim Cameron, co-producer, loves it. Rodriguez then added, we just talked about it recently again, and how can we do this? What's the best way to approach it? I think it'll be me going in there with him to talk about it because I'm doing a lot of stuff for Disney now. I think a lot of this is also going to be determined on how well those Avatar sequels do. Yeah. Because if those make a lot of money for Disney, that puts Cameron in good standing. And if Rodriguez does well with this Book of Boba Fett show, that puts him in good standing with Disney. And I'd like a movie, but if not, maybe a streaming series on Hulu.
Yeah.
Because
and a lot of fans have said that too. Yeah.
Give it to Hulu because you own Hulu, and you have to sell that as well as Disney Plus. Maybe put it on Hulu because, of course, that's a little more adult orientated, and you probably would need that for Alita, which is a PG-13 at the least. But we'll see what happens. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I would love to see an Alita sequel. That was one of my favorite movies of that year it came out, and I hope we get a sequel. And I love Rosa Salazar. I think she's a great motion capture actress. I'd like to see her do more stuff along those lines too.
Yeah, and I would also say that trying to channel Kamran Pasha, right? I mean, I don't have his insights. I don't know the people that he knows. I haven't chewed the ground that he chews, but I've listened to him enough to know how he thinks and to kind of think his way. So I look at this and I go, again, why is this being said now? There is nothing in the pipeline. Nobody asked. So what is the reason for this? And I have to wonder if this isn't Rodriguez sending out his, and Robert Rodriguez I like too. He's very, very talented. I think he's got a big future. And I think he knows that too. He knows it's potentially true. He's hoping it's true. And
he's one of the best directors in Hollywood right now.
And he's just being honest about what he's hoping for doing in the future. Maybe as I gain more pull and sway, I can get my pet projects done. And this is, we've seen lots of directors do this.
He's always had his pet projects. He has the projects to make money, and then he has the pet
How many people have you seen? Okay, fine, I'll do a sequel of this, but then I want to be able to do this. Heck, look at, and they're not always successful, right? You look at Nolan. Okay, fine, I'll do 3 Batman movies for you, but then I want to do Tenet, which we know how that turned out. But, he got to do it, right?
Yeah.
And George Lucas has done the same. I did my Star Wars movies, now I want to do Willow. Well, you know how that turned out.
I suspect that the reason Alita did badly was partly Disney's fault. I think
it's not even a suspicion. It's absolutely true.
It was their press throwing shade at it by saying it wasn't going to perform well. It did very well overseas too. It did very well in China. Okay.
And I think that. Well, but that's not going to pull any weight now these days.
I know.
Just because it did well in China is not.
And I think it would have done better over here. I don't think it did terrible over here.
It would have done better, but again, that goes back to the marketing we were talking about. And it came down to the us versus them. You got to support this Marvel movie over this one. Even though we own it, because we have an interest in and we inherited this. And I think that someone like Bob Chapek comes in and goes, well, how did that work out? We didn't really do as well, and the future of Marvel wasn't as good. We need to start looking at new franchises. Maybe this Alita will work out. So tell me, Robert Rodriguez, give me your pitch on this. And he'll go and he'll say, this would have done much better if it had gotten Disney support. Okay, I see that. Look at this. Look at the fan base. Look at, the Doc Ito Facebook page and Twitter and stuff, and how he's pushing it. Buy those Blu-rays, baby, and they did sell. They really did sell.
I am going to say this. I consider this to be the last 20th Century Fox movie, really, because the Blu-ray I got, it was a 20th Century Fox Blu-ray. It wasn't a Disney, because the later 20th Century Fox movies that got released by Disney, they were under the Disney moniker. This was still 20th Century Fox. Yeah.
Here's my hypothesis. This is how we test this, okay? If we see something come out, maybe not this week, maybe not this month, but maybe beginning of next year, later on, if we see Rosa Salazar say something, if they get what's that guy that played the Hulk?
Eric Bana? Edward Norton.
Norton. If Norton comes out and says something about it, then we know that they're trying to mobilize and gin up some.
What would be smart for Robert Rodriguez, if he's doing Star Wars projects for Disney, cast Rosa Salazar in one of them.
Sure, absolutely.
And maybe even Edward Norton in it too.
He may even be thinking that himself right now. You never know.
Could you see Edward Norton as Thrawn? Or they're already getting somebody else, though, aren't they? Never mind.
They already have someone else.
Okay,
but give me a second. Let me think about that. I don't know him behind the screen. All I know is, what we know of him as an actor. And I would say yes.
Yeah.
I could be okay with him playing Thrawn. The thing is, I've heard some things about him behind the scenes that I don't know if he could or not.
I remember hearing people talk about when the Avengers director was announced, and Josh Whedon, he says, you're going to have Norton and Downey on the same set, because they were worried that both actors would be hard to control, and both of them on the set together.
Yeah.
And I almost think too, I was angry though they got rid of him as Bruce Banner, though, because I would have, and then if they were going to do that, they could have at least gotten what's his name back. They went with Mark Ruffalo. I don't understand that. Anyway, moving on.
No, they did want to distance themselves more from the Eric Bana
movie
than they did from the Norton one.
Okay, well, whatever. I don't know. Okay,
but yeah, given that, I think that's what we're seeing here, and I can't help but think that this sounds pretty genuine to me. This is him saying to us, the fans, I'm still in there on this. If you guys are all there, let's, rally, Team Alita here,
Exactly. Okay, so we'll see. Keep your fingers crossed. Maybe we'll hear more stuff as the years go by, hopefully.
Yeah.
Plus, it was probably Iger that had it in for Alita, not Chapek, so we'll see.
That's probably a typo there, the HO.
Okay, Ghostbusters Afterlife has been delayed until November 19th. I thought you were like, oh, never mind. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, no, I'm editing
someone
over.
On YouTube did a video about this.
Yeah, but anyway. No, I edit over last week's notes when I do this, so I may have been didn't completely delete when I did the delete.
Anyway, let me go ahead. It's official. Ghostbusters Afterlife has been delayed again, but luckily only by a week. Deadline broke the news, stating that the delay would see Ghostbusters Afterlife move from its November 11th release to November 19th. Okay. Why the delay by a week?
Well, and I did not. First, I want to do a little shameless self-promotion here. I did do a video on this. I'm going to drop the link because I actually put it into the notes.
I can drop it if you want.
No, I got
you already have. Okay.
And a little shameless self-promotion. I did a video. As soon as I heard about this, I dropped the video because I was disappointed. And all I did was I just repeated exactly that it's been put off for a week. I'm not happy about this, but did get a troll on that video, which was kind of nice because I got some engagement because of that.
A troll?
Yeah. He was... I think he's a black pill type of guy who is like, if they keep putting it off, people are going to lose interest. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. And that's true for a lot of the movies that have been put off. Though. But this is not true with, of all the movies that have been put off. I feel Ghostbusters has done a great job of pivoting into it and using it and continuing to steamroll. It's like what do you call it? A snowball going downhill, picking up steam. The longer they put it off, the more people get jazzed about it. More every week, almost every day, you're seeing more merchandise coming out, more and more and more. If you follow Ghostbusters news, it's like every other day. Now they've licensed cake companies to be able to print licensed, Ghostbusters cakes, and just yesterday it was they got these mini puff, like actual marshmallow mini puff characters being put out, edible, and there's just constant and more toys and action figures and t-shirts and costume stuff. We're going into Halloween. We got all the costume stuff coming out. So the marketing is doing gangbusters. It's not like with Shang-Chi where everything's on clearance and nobody cares, or, so many other things,
Yeah, but...
and he just wasn't understanding how the marketing's working. But to your question about why by just a week, what it seems to be is that, and that link that Aged Boomer dropped specifically to Ghostbusters News, who was talking about this, they speculate there's two things. First, these things don't happen in a vacuum. So our next news article speaks about this. Paramount has decided they're calling 22 a wash, and they're pushing everything off to 2022. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of us, but it relates directly to this one. So it looks like Ghostbusters is doing two things. First, the week that they were releasing is the same week that the Eternals is being released. And Ghostbusters apparently does not want to have to compete with anybody if they can avoid it, right? As long as people are pushing movies off, let's, have as little competition as possible. If I'm the only movie being released in a week, then I get my best shot at big box office.
I think they're right. And even though you and I joke about the Eternals, that could still siphon off some of their audience.
Right. Absolutely. Because there's no reason. I mean, if you're winning the game, there's no reason for you to, or you're winning the race, there's no reason for you to slow down, right? And jog. You run like they're right on your ass. It's the whole tortoise and the hare thing, right? Just because we know that Eternals is going to be the tortoise, there's no reason for the Ghostbusters hair to slow down. They're going to go, you know what? We'll wait a week and we'll get a bigger box office the following week. That's one thing. Secondly, what is being put off is that would be playing that week is Top Gun Maverick. So that means all the IMAX theaters are opening up suddenly. Ghostbusters has an IMAX release.
Should we get
well.
to that next one? This time I was into Paramount moves Top Gun Maverick, Jackass Forever, Mission Impossible 7 to 2022. I have to tell you, I think this is kind of foolhardy.
On Paramount's part?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Here's the deal. What are they thinking? At some point, things are going to go back to normal. Things aren't going back to normal at this point, okay? People are either going to go to movies now or they're not going to go, okay? So you have to release this stuff. There is no point. They're already telling people who've gotten the vaccination to wear masks again. They're already the fear is still up, and it's going to be up for the next few years.
This is the conundrum that Hollywood has gotten itself into. They're realizing right now they backed the wrong damn horse. Okay, because it was the Hollywood people that got behind the whole, the horrible croup. We got to be careful, and they start doing like, we're all in this together, and they do their stupid tone deaf video singing Imagine, and we're all in this together, as they're sitting in their mansions and, with their bubbly and their, jacuzzis, and we're lucky if we can get toilet paper, fuck you assholes. Imagine no possessions. Well, that's real easy when you got all the possessions, you asshole.
Well, that's for us.
and doing promotions to go get your vaccines and this and that and so on and so forth, and the governor, fuck your freedom. If you don't go get your vaccine, forgetting that there's immunosuppressed people out there and people with clotting disorders and heart problems that can't safely get any inoculations, you fucking asshole. So making people second-class citizens because of their health condition, I mean, come on, man. So now they're realizing they whipped up everybody into this frenzy of hatred against anti-vaxxers and the fear of this virus, and they're starting to realize it's killing their business. And pretty soon, these people that, thought it was so great to no possessions because they had it all are starting to lose it because they don't have any money coming in. Okay. And they got to pay the taxes on that mansion of theirs.
Yes, but but basically, the long and the short of it for me is, I don't think the situation with the public is going to be any different in a year than it is.
I'm sorry, but that was the point I was getting to.
Well, I think I know. I think they understand.
Hollywood is starting to understand that, and now they are starting to get behind the, hey, we got to get back to normal. So yes, they are going to start trying to turn the Titanic and start making the message.
The iceberg already, though.
Save the cinemas, get the movies out there. We're going to keep holding these off, and we're going to try to use whatever clout we have left to write things.
Listen to me. This is the new normal at this point. I don't like it, but people either are afraid to go to the movies or they're not, okay?
Yeah.
And there is no point in postponing these projects anymore, okay? And nothing is going to get back to normal unless you're putting movies people want to see in theaters anyway, okay?
Right.
The vaccines are available. There's other precautions you can take. You can brave it or you can stay home. But the thing is...
You hit on the key right there, right? So they if they are trying to swing the pendulum back the other way to get the theaters opened, okay, they're doing it in a very mealy-mouthed kind of way. They're trying to make sure they save as much profit as they can while still trying to get that message out. When I think you alluded to something that's what they really need to do. They need to be willing to put these movies out at the theaters, take a loss on it, and say, now's the time to get back to the theaters. They
need to basically say things are back to normal now.
Exactly. We think they're back to normal enough. We're going to start releasing stuff.
I don't know when the public's going to think that because of all the hysteria that's been whipped up. Okay, but apparently we'll talk about box office numbers later.
Look at the sports ball. When you see these games where the stadiums are filled. The fans are going to stuff.
Yeah.
The good movies, people are going to see. I was talking about with King Kong versus Godzilla. That movie did great, whether it was pandemic or not.
No offense, but the fact that Maverick has been postponed again.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Well, this is also
maybe they have to retool it now because
I was just going to say this is the same Maverick that they took the American flags off of everything so as not to offend China.
No,
maybe they're going
to. It was the Taiwanese flag.
Whatever it was. But the point is, maybe they're rethinking that, right? Maybe they're going
with First Man, where they removed the American flag from that gets planted on the moon because we can't have that. Anyway, that was before the pandemic hit. Lovely.
I understand that there's some people that are really upset about Jackass Forever being pushed off. I couldn't care less, but obviously it has a fan base that I'm not tapped into. I
don't know. Anyway,
but I'll tell you something else. Mission Impossible 7. So that's 2 Tom Cruise movies being pushed off. He may be behind part of that decision. Maybe
isn't this costing them money?
Yes, it is.
The more it takes them, I mean,
they're playing the numbers here, right? Because they're losing money for as long as these finished movies sit in the can and they can't release them, right? Because they incur a certain amount of debt and they're paying back on those debts, right? So they're hoping to get their money back in spades when they release it to a full, box office and make big bank. Well, but it's always a gamble when you put any movie out, how big it's going to be, let alone, this, trying to hedge your bets. It doesn't pay off for them no matter what they do, really. I think but you're right. You kind of alluded to it, and I'm gonna double down on that. I think it takes a movie company being willing to say, you know what, we're putting the movie out because we think that people will come see it. And if you do limited audiences, well, then it'll just be in theaters longer because those movies will sell out and sell out and sell out.
Let it build up. Let it be like
and
the
this
old
is why
days.
if And like I said in my video, that's a big if. I hope it's true. If it's only a week and Ghostbusters comes out and it does big bank, that's going to send a loud message to Hollywood and the movie going public. Theaters are back, baby, if you want it.
Yes. Oh, Horizon Talker says, oh yeah, the Eternals wouldn't want to run opposite checks notes, discount Bollywood. Funny. Oh, no.
That's a good point. It's a good point, Horizon Talker.
Speaking of discount, this almost strikes me as discount wuxia. Shang-Chi, okay? Yeah. How much did Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings, make on opening night? Now, of course, this story may end up being dated at this point, but the next chapter in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is here. Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings is an important, unique film in the MCU in many ways. First film to introduce an entirely new hero since 2019's Captain Marvel. Yep. Yay. Who apparently has a cameo in the post-credit sequence. Anyway.
Oh, fuck. Like I care. Like anyone gives a fuck.
Okay, it brought in $8.8 million in domestic box office on Thursday night, according to Exhibitor. It's a solid preview night number. It exceeds the $7.1 million by F9, which was a pandemic-era record record at the time. However, it's significantly lower than the $13.2 million done by Black Widow.
Exactly.
But I am going to say this: they've been screaming about this whole weekend. They're saying it's a Labor Day weekend record. So I don't know how well it's doing, but apparently we're spinning it as doing well.
Okay. When I was talking about the tortoise and the hare, right? Yeah. If I put a tortoise and a turtle and a snail into a race, whichever one wins eventually, does anyone really care? We're talking about, the remedials here. Historically, Labor Day weekend is not a good movie weekend. It's just not. It's the last hurrah of summer. People are going out and doing summer things. They're not going to movie theaters. And that's just business. That's just numbers. That's just history. So if you hit some sort of a record for that, well, whoop-de-freaking do. Wow, that was a low bar you just cleared.
Hey, a nice turn to Agent Boomer. I have to say something that makes me depressed about this whole thing. Like Young Rip is saying, oh, it's the first time an Asian super. Thinking we've been having all Asian cast movies for years. They come from the East. I have a full library of Shaw Brothers movies. I know every Dragon Dynasty movie release, and it makes me depressed. There was a time when China, Hong Kong in particular, not the mainland, was making movies like gangbusters that I wanted to see. And guess what happened? Hong Kong goes back to China, and the opposite of what happened. I wanted to happened. I thought Hong Kong would have more influence on the mainland. The reverse happened, now all of these what I once thought could. And
you can expect Taiwan to go exactly the same way under this situation.
Back in the aughts, the first decade of the 2000s, they were putting out stuff like House of Flying Daggers, Kung Fu Hustle. These were shown in American theaters too, on big screen and subtitles. And I was paying to see these on the big screen like any other Hollywood movie. And I'm thinking these guys may end up rivaling Hollywood someday as far as production values go. And then it's completely fallen apart, and it's no longer there, and it makes me sad because. I want Hollywood to have competition because competition is good for the customer.
You're absolutely right. When you talk about globalism, right?
Yeah.
You think about competition and you think about partnerships. Both are good things in business. And I think about, like you said, Hong Kong theater back when, even Bollywood. I've seen some good Bollywood films. And I think they have some strengths that Hollywood could learn from. In a perfect world, they'd be competition for each other, but they could also strengthen each other as well, and they could work together. There could be
exactly.
But yeah, I'll tell you the thing about this Shang-Chi thing. I cannot underscore this enough. 8.8 million for Shang-Chi. When it was released solely in theaters, right? It's 45 days. It's going to be in theaters without having to compete with itself on a streaming service. Black Widow came out day and date and made 13.2 million. That is going to really, really. You bring up that if Disney brings that up in the ScarJo case, that's going to really fuck that case. Now. Again, we don't know what the rest of the weekend looks like. That's just the first day.
Yeah.
But it's not looking good so far.
So that would strengthen her case, you think?
No, it would strengthen Disney's case against her.
Okay, right.
Right?
So we'll see what happens, yeah. So I don't know. We'll see how the weekend goes.
And this goes back to what I was talking about marketing, too. Just as I feel Disney really, screwed Alita. That doesn't sound right at all. I take that back. They did Alita dirty, okay? By not helping to market her and push her and support her and allowing the Twitterazzi to go after it. I feel like they did the same thing to Shang-Chi. And I think this is the reason. So that you can make this comparison between Black Widow and Shang-Chi for their lawsuit. Because they already knew it was kind of going to be a loser anyway. And again, I think this falls into the whole battle between Chapek and Feige, and I think there's a lot of moving parts and four-dimensional chess going on.
We'll see what happens once the dust settles. I guess over the weekend. I'm very curious. Did I see Shaolin Soccer? Asks Horizon Talker. I did. Same director as Kung Fu Hustle, actually. It's a very good movie. That was released by Miramax, the Harvey Weinstein company over here. Anyway, who always had to re-edit the Hong Kong movie itself.
Other than the big scandal,
with both versions. Yeah.
Other than the big scandal, I don't know anything about this Weinstein guy, but I loved a lot of Miramax films.
Here's the deal. I think he did a lot of good for movies, some bad too, because people. They said stuff happened on the Crow 2 set that wasn't good. But, for the most part, he actually did allow new talent in, like Tarantino and other people.
Yeah.
Robert Rodriguez. Who knows if he would have had a career without the help of Harvey Weinstein, even though that's kind of... Of course, Rodriguez actually stood up to Weinstein, too, in the case of, what's her name?
When
the one from Planet Terror, I forget her name now. Rose McGowan.
Rose McGowan, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
When Nanette and I were dating, she was working at a theater, a cinema that played mostly independent films like that. So I saw a lot of those Miramax films when we were dating.
Remember Swingers?
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn.
I actually got to see him for free because Netter would give me a courtesy pass, and I'd go and I'd watch the movie until she got off of work.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's how I saw that. What was that one with Meg Ryan and the Wolverine?
Jack?
No.
Sorry.
No.
Hugh Jackman?
Yeah, Hugh Jackman. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Kate and Leopold. That's where I saw Kate and Leopold. That was a Miramax film.
Oh, I haven't seen that movie.
I think it was. Yeah.
Okay, so I might be leaning on you for these last couple articles. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Want to give a summary? Okay, you don't have to read from them if you don't want to. But businesses thought they were covered for the pandemic. Insurers say no. Yikes.
This is not news. This is from a year ago, but it's beginning to be very important right now. So, you have this one, this article.
I posted it, but I don't have access to it, unfortunately.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
So way back during the heyday of 2020, the summer of love, as they called it, and whatnot. There was a lot of businesses that were being destroyed because of all kinds of stuff that were going on and because of the pandemic. Every time there was shutdowns, people lost money, and these businesses just figured, well, I can go to my insurance company and I can make a claim. And the insurance company's going, nope, you're not covered for that. So it's all fine and dandy to go along with, shutdowns and everything when I think I can collect insurance. But when I find out I can't, now businesses ain't so happy with, Mr. whoever happens to be in the White House. Well, why did I bring this up with you, Boomer? It's because it ties directly to what's going on in Hollywood right now, right? We were just talking a little bit about postponing movies, how they're losing money.
Forever. Postponing forever.
How the cinemas and the studios are losing money because they can't claim this on their insurance. They're not getting a buyout from the insurance companies. Now, there was speculation that there would be a buyout or a too big to fail kind of check being written by the Biden administration. I don't know if that did or did not happen, but it doesn't sound like it is. The insurance companies aren't going to prop them up. So you can definitely be watching for Hollywood, as I was saying in the previous news article, for Hollywood and most of businesses to start going, you know what? We can't keep going this route. We need to change course and start watching, a lot of otherwise very liberal people start to become very, very conservative over the next year.
We'll see what happens. I'm worried about the inflation situation, too. Have you seen gas lately?
Yeah, it's like up over, well, by us, it's up over $3 a gallon.
I saw a meme somewhere, and someone was going, like I think they quoted some feminist woman saying, these guys that love video games and their male power fantasies or whatever, and then someone posts a scene from Resident Evil 2 where like the gas is like 99 cents, and the guy look, that's the fantasy gas being 99 cents. It's a joke anyway. Okay,
so and that ties in directly here, and that ties in directly to our last article, which is from the Wall Street Journal. You are living in the golden age of stupidity.
Yeah, I need to. When I'm at work, I'm going to look this up. But
let me just summarize this for you, okay? Basically, what they're getting at is, and yeah, I guess most people would consider Wall Street Journal to be a bit right leaning, but ironically, when you're right leaning, you're the ones that are looking at the actual news and the actual numbers and actual business and
slightly
law.
Right leaning, but they're fairly trustworthy.
Yeah. And what's the tagline? Idiocy, stupidity, Afghan, COVID, vaccine, all of this stuff, right? They're basically saying what all of us are thinking. This really is a clown world, okay? Things have gotten completely out of hand, and people need to get their shit together. That's basically what this article is saying. And if things don't change pretty soon, things are going to get really, really bad. Things are bad now. They're just going to get worse if we don't change course.
Yeah, it's not going to be good. What's the name? Trillium say buy your Christmas presents now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Oh, Trillium, she's so sweet. Have you been seeing
She's
her
funny.
short little
She's on
videos from her
vacation.
vacation? Oh gosh, she's such a
Oh my
sweetie.
goodness. Okay, where does she live?
I have no freaking clue, and I
Okay,
don't need to know. I
it's
mean,
probably a
that's
southern
fine.
state. I don't know which though.
She
Okay.
is so sweet. But I'll tell you, Viva Fry had brought up a point. He said it was an old joke, and I don't remember where it's from. He said, you know, somebody who made this joke said, "I want to die peacefully in my sleep like my grandfather, not screaming like all the people in the car with him." And honestly, that's how I feel about the United States with Biden at the wheel.
Oh, yeah. No one's happy with the situation
Oh,
right
it was
now.
Ben Shapiro that said it, not Viva Fry, but he was quoting someone else, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, he did a rewatch, Ben Shapiro, of the Spider-Man trailer, the new one. It's kind of funny if you want to watch that sometime. He did a live
I'll have to check
reaction.
that out. Yeah,
He was making a point, like when they're talking, they're like, "Oh, I'll obey you, Spider Lord." Like and then he's saying, "That's not good dialogue." That's what he's saying. Some of the dialogue in some of the Marvel movies needs some work, at least the Spider-Man ones. But anyway, okay. What was I going to talk about? Is that
but
it? I have a oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, that pretty much sums it up. That's where I was on that one.
I have a question for the chat. Did someone in here recommend JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to me? Unless it was Wolf 10.
Is that an anime
That's an
thing?
anime. It's an anime. I just started watching it. I am transfixed. Do you know what it's about? At least this
No,
is what I can. It takes place in Victorian England, and
I'm
it's
listening.
about these two brothers, or like this one guy that was adopted into the family, but he's a bad guy and wants to take over the family,
Uh
and
huh.
like he starts bullying the other guy and like manipulating him and stuff. And it's almost is this like a Lost Dickens novel? And then vampirism gets introduced later on, and I'm like, what am I watching here? And you know the band Yes from the '70s, the band
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
the song Roundabout. In the
yeah.
end credits, they play the song Roundabout. It's the Yes song.
Wow.
And it's so odd because you're seeing these Victorian characters and these ancient Mayan hieroglyphics in the background. They're playing this Yes song Roundabout, and it just works. And I am floored by it. So yes, JoJo's a good one. It only gets better as it goes on. Thank you, Mr. Matstick. Yes, I'm watching JoJo. I got past the first 3 episodes, so yeah. But see, here's the deal. There's always something you can watch, whether it be Blake Seven or JoJo. So don't despair.
Yeah.
Sit at home and watch TV while the world burns around you. Anyway, I'm kidding.
Right.
I'm kidding.
Right.
Play some Quake. Play Quake. Quake is a good game. Anyway.
I don't know.
Oh man.
Well, that
Uh,
was a lot of stuff for the week.
Do you know what? I almost had a joke. Like if they were going to do, if they were going to have like the adult Captain America on a future season of Winter Soldier, they could have him on and he could talk just like Joe Biden and be all spacey and like
Oh God, no, well, yeah,
we
but
get his advice and he would talk just like that. And like, oh, we're screwed. It's like,
remember who these people voted for, though.
I know they wouldn't happen on that show, but that would be if they were being. I mean, you know.
You know, let me tell you something about and the thing. You know, come on, man.
That would be fun. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I don't think I get that out of it when I drink too much.
Oh man, look up to be continued compilations. They're hilarious. Oh, you've experienced JoJo's. Don't worry, the first 10 episodes are the roughest. There's a time skip coming. I'm fascinated so far. So if it gets better, that's great. Okay. But anyway.
See, you every time you say JoJo, I think of Jojo Rabbit.
No, what it is I think it's Jonathan Johnston, or that's his name. It's some weird, and that's so they call him JoJo for short. I think.
Gotcha.
Like I've only watched a couple episodes so far, and his evil stepbrother, but the guy didn't. Here's the deal: the guy thought he owed this guy a debt, so he adopted his son to the family. But the guy he owed the debt was really a horrible criminal, and then he died because he drank too much, or the son poisoned that. It's no, I'm telling you, it's like something out of like a Victorian Gothic Dickensian. It's all.
It actually
it's
sounds
very
pretty good. Yeah.
It's very strange. Oh, Netflix will adapt this next.
Oh
This will be
God.
the next thing they screw up. Okay. Oh. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, good stuff. Y'all have a safe and happy Labor Day. And don't forget 9/11 falls on Saturday this year. So, like I said, just be safe. Hopefully nothing transpires, but you never know because and again, just what's going on this week? There we go. There's Tuesday. You're doing Clear and Present Danger.
Tuesday, Clear and Present Danger over on Birdman's channel because he decided he wanted to do a couple of feel good American patriot films. So I'm with him on that one. What about Wednesday? You're on with him then.
Yeah, we're doing Born on the 4th of July. I'm kidding. No, Wednesday we're doing Star Trek 3. The Search for Spock rewatch.
Dork.
I'm sorry. I'm just Star Trek 3 Search for Spock. I do love that movie. I think it's a very underrated Star Trek movie. And then we're going to be doing you're doing something on Friday, right?
On Friday, yeah, like I'd mentioned it earlier. You and me will be once again hosting Stephanie Janicek of Stephanie Janicek's Smuggler's Cantina. We'll be talking about Star Wars, the EU, and how it's making its comeback.
I'm going to say to her, I don't care anymore. Star Wars is dead. I should say that.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
I see her.
Well, no, you know what, though? If we say it on our show, though, she can hear the tone in our voice and she knows we're joking. I think when she, sees the notes, when people are in chat, you can't hear tone, so you assume that people mean what they say, even if they're joking.
She'll get so furious. She's okay, then get out of here then. And she's, oh, man. Okay, what else is going on? Saturday over on Big Al's channel, we will be rewatching, I think everybody's seen this movie, and we're going to be singing along with the classic musical Grease. It's The Word. Oh, The Word? Oh, yes, Grease. That got into trouble over in England on New Year's, Apparently that was a tradition, and now they're saying, well, that movie's problematic. Maybe we could talk about that on the stream. I'm kidding. Okay. Oh, Agent Boomer, Troy Pacelli, I'm releasing a video on anime with a similar feel to Cowboy Bebop tomorrow, worth checking out for those looking for distraction from NetBop. I agree.
NetBop. I hadn't heard it called that before. Okay.
Thank you for bringing this up, Horizon Talker. I want to make a point that if you're having the Cowboy Bebop blues, watch another anime. Heck, JoJo. That's distracting me right now, okay? There's a lot of other anime out there, and then eventually you can get back into Cowboy Bebop. I mean, you never know. The Netflix series could be good.
I'll pull up my Speed Racer DVD.
You know what? I used to watch Speed Racer. You know where I saw that for the first time? MTV.
No kidding.
MTV would show it late at night after Liquid Television. Remember Liquid Television?
Yeah. For me
that
in the 70s,
good old days segment.
In the 70s, that was afternoon fare on the local UHF channel. Yeah, I used to watch it all the time.
That'd be an interesting one for them to remake as a modern anime. That might be interesting with all the technology they have now. I'm surprised they haven't.
That's a good point.
That seems like an obvious one.
Did you ever see that movie? Was it any good?
I haven't. I actually got the digital copy. When it was on sale one week, I think it was like get 3 for $10, and there were 2 I wanted. I'm like, what am I going to get as a third? I'm like, there's that Speed Racer Wachowski brothers. I'm not sure what they are now, but there's that movie, and I figure, well, I'll get it. I'm curious. It's got Christina Ricci in it, right? So I don't know. Anyway,
was it
it's
Christina
Trixie.
Ricci? Okay.
She was Trixie.
I can see that, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, and what's his name? Roseanne's husband.
Tom Arnold? No. Oh, no. What's his name? Yes. Oh man, why am I so bad with actors?
John Goodman.
John Goodman.
Yeah, he played Pops.
Did you see 10 Cloverfield Lane?
I did.
Oh
man,
one of his best performances. That would be a good rewatch for you to do sometime.
He is a much better actor than I think people give him credit for.
He is. He's great in Big Lebowski. That's another one I love. Oh
yeah.
If you do a rewatch, I know you're still in the A's, right? Do you own Big Lebowski?
I don't.
Okay.
I've only ever seen parts of it, actually.
You've only seen parts of it. That movie is a gut buster.
Is it?
There are scenes in it building up. Okay, do you like the Eagles, right? You like the Eagles, right?
Of course I love
There's a scene in it where Lebowski's trying to take in a taxi back, and he's already had a bad day with lots of other stuff. And then on the radio is the Eagles playing, and he starts yelling at the cab driver, can you please switch the channel? Not the Eagles today, no. And he says, F you, get out of my car, like he's an Eagles fan. He kicks him out of the car because he attacked the Eagles, you know.
Yeah, I would too.
So it's a funny scene.
I have taken on every road trip we've taken, I take the Eagles' greatest hits, the 2-volume, thing, and I'll play that all the way through. And then as soon as it's over, I'll put in the Common Threads album, which is a bunch of country singers doing covers of the Eagles songs. Matchstick hasn't seen it either. Yeah, I mean, if I were to
do a great Coen Brothers movie, Steve Buscemi's in it too. Do you like bowling? There's a lot of bowling in it. Sam Shepard, that's who I'm thinking of. The guy who was in our rewatch of the Roadhouse, right? That's his name. Sam Shepard.
Yes.
Yeah, he's in it for a brief scene too, and he plays a cowboy. I don't even want to get into it. Okay, but it's a great movie. But the author and owner of Speed Racer property is deceased, and I think the Japanese copyright is in limbo. Buy the copyright, Troy. You can make your own Speed Racer series.
Yeah, I don't have the money for that. Whoever has access to it, I don't have the kind of money to buy
Speed
that.
Racer. Get a new anime made out of it. That'd be interesting. All right, I think I got to call tonight. It's Labor Day. I want to have some fun before I start working. And you have fun too. You and Annette have a good day off tomorrow.
We'll do our best. Thanks so much.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Thank you so much
for the chat, tuning in. I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.